Hello, YouTube, and welcome to
Top Chat. Fuck that. No.
welcome to episode 24, Book Club 24 of Wizard and Glass. Feels like we were just here with a book club, but that's what we love about these 3 episode months.
Yeah.
Is some bonus book club action. So, good stuff. Having a lot of fun. We're right in the meat of it all here for this book. So, let's go ahead and hit the intro and get started.
The Dark Tower by Stephen King. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. Go then. There are other worlds than these. Death, but not for you, gunslinger. It's time we had our own palaver, I think, and it's going to take a while.
And yet, dauntless, the slug horn to my lips I set, and blew. Child Roland to the Dark Tower came.
We are content, one from many. Let the palaver begin.
Hello and welcome to Dark Tower Palaver. This is our podcast covering Stephen King's magnum opus, The Dark Tower series. My name is Tad.
And I'm Peter.
And I guess I could say in the extended King universe, but in a book club, not really.
I mean, a little bit. I literally have a note this time about another book.
Oh, I mean,
So.
yeah, there's always like small things, but in our round tables, there's a lot more outside of the Dark Tower Stephen King coverage. We're here for episode 24 of the book club series for Wizard and Glass. We're getting up there in book clubs. I don't remember. I have a list somewhere. But I want to say when we were in the kind of the mid 20s is about where we've topped for most of their books. Or lower. I mean, obviously, like book 1 didn't have nearly
did not
as many
have.
episodes.
It didn't come close to 20. Did
No,
it even have 10?
and even book 2, I don't think we had as because it's a shorter book. But I think the last book, I think we were kind of in the mid in the 20s, I believe. I thought I had a list somewhere. It's we're getting up into that number, but we still have some ways to go for this book. So, hello, Carol. Welcome. I don't know. It just dawned on me as I was doing the prep for this episode. And I was like, 24. I'm like, man, that's kind of high up there for the numbers. But I mean, obviously, it's not a spoiler to say as we look ahead and throughout the Dark Tower series, these books tend to get longer. So, and dense. I mean, denser too. I mean, this one there's a little bit more going on than maybe the last one in terms of it. Seems like some of our conversations tend to go a little bit deeper in this, just because there's like. This is backstory, world building, all kinds of stuff like that versus just on a singular narrative. So, let's go ahead and hit the intro stuff real quick. We don't have to warn you about spoilers. I don't know. Did you have anything spoiler section? Because we do usually have a spoiler section for these book clubs, but I don't think we have anything this episode.
I didn't have anything. No.
The general rule of thumb, though, is with these, we stay where we're at or before. We don't jump ahead. We usually have it. We do reserve a spoiler section at the very end in case we do have any notes that we wanted to cover, but I don't think we have anything for this episode. So if you've not finished the 7 primary books of the Dark Tower series, this is a safe episode unless somehow you are further behind in the series than we are here, which means I would hope that you just started reading not too long ago.
Yeah.
And then if you want to find the podcast, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, stream us on Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, or any podcasting service of your choice. If you want to subscribe, rate, and review us on any of those, we'd appreciate that. And if you want to join us live, you can do that over here at youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. We go live every other week here on YouTube. You can watch along live, be part of the conversation in the chat, all that kind of stuff. We had a lot of fun. We've been having a lot of fun recently a lot. But, the last book club, I know there was a lot of fun a couple weeks ago. So, and then if you want to subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications, that will stop lightning teeth from happening, playing the mono, zapping us.
I just looked it up. The Wastelands.
Yeah.
25 parts.
Okay. So I knew we were kind of close. I was like, maybe it's like 27, 28, but I knew we were in the 20s when we wrapped that book club. So yeah, we're not far off. We're
on episode 24 right now.
Yeah, but spoiler alert, we're not finishing this book next episode.
No, we are not. Drawing of the 3 was 22.
Okay, that's actually a lot longer than I would have anticipated.
Well, remember, that was before we started doing the little bit different format that we're doing now. That
That's
was
true.
when we were doing a little bit more.
Yeah, we changed that midway through
Yeah.
the third book. So that's true. And then if you want to find the show notes, you can do that over at darktowerpalaver.com. Also, right now, for a couple more days, what do we got? Today and then 2 more days for March Insanity. If you want to go to darktowerpalaver.com/March Insanity, you've got the finals that are up for vote
Dude,
right now.
I cannot believe it, man.
I know. We're going to talk about it on our roundtable for sure, but there was easily the largest upset in the history of March Insanity this time around.
That was crazy.
Pretty wild. But if you want to find all things Dark Tower Palaver, you can find it over at the website. There's no show notes for this episode, but if you want to find March Insanity or the show notes for previous episodes, questions for new listeners, there's all kinds of fun stuff over there at darktowerpalaver.com. And then if you want to support the show, you can do that at patreon.com/darktowerpalaver. And then if you want to contact the show and send us your Ermot memorials, you can do that in a number of ways. Peter can tell you how to do that. I haven't seen any, what did I say, haikus for Ermot?
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of those yet, so which is fine. I don't understand haikus, so even if somebody just wrote a few words in different lines, I would just assume it was.
You're
okay.
like, hey, that's a hike. No, Ted. Best way to reach us is show@darktowerpalaver.com. That's through email. And then Threads, Instagram, and Facebook, Dark Tower Palaver, all one word, no spaces. Facebook.com/darktowerpalaver if you want the direct URL. And then on Blue Sky, it's at darktowerpalaver.bsky.social. And then on our Twitter, it's at darktowerpod. That's at darktowerpod. And then go to tpublic.com/user/darktowerpalaver. Pick yourself up some merchandise. Like I just got myself a new shirt. One with the like asphalt gray or whatever it's called.
Yeah, I like gray shirts. Gray shirts are fun.
It looks great. That hashtag tat is terrible really stands out a lot better on this one than it does on that blue. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm mad at myself. I should have got like a poster or something. That I could have put it up every episode. And
no, we can't have any slander like that.
it's not slander, sir. I mean, it's 100% true.
Nah. That's so. So yeah, we already mentioned March Insanity, but we have a bonus piece of content for you. After we wrapped last episode, where
oh god,
we saw the.
I forgot it. I forgot this didn't happen on the air.
Yeah, no, that yeah, exactly. So we had the unfortunate demise of our beloved Ermot last episode, and we wrapped the episode, and then while we were actually prepping, getting ready to record the next episode, I think I don't want to call it a great line, but I thought it was a great line. And Peter had a good reaction. So
and Tad, the mics were still rolling.
Yes,
so Tad,
indeed.
of course, recorded it.
So here's your bonus content that was
Yeah.
kind of what is it left on the cutting room floor type
Yeah.
thing. Here we go. Ermot was a fan of a different box canyon.
Oh, so gross. So gross. In honor of Hayden, who's not here, so yucky, Tad.
Oh, that's so good. So good. Ermot will be with us always in our hearts.
No, he will not.
Somewhere else too.
No.
Looks like Carol also, because she hasn't been around for a while, she's gonna dip because she hasn't basically listened to the last number of book clubs. So thanks, Carol, for popping in.
Yeah.
Definitely appreciate seeing you, and I'm sure there's a lot of fun shenanigans to catch up on with a year's worth of tomfoolery. So let's go ahead and dive on in. So we're still in part 3, which is titled Come Reap. Remember, there's 4 parts to this book. The 2 middle ones are the biggest. And we are now reaching the halfway point because there's 10 chapters for the 2 middle parts. And we're diving now into chapter 5, which is titled Wizard's Rainbow.
And we're not going to finish this chapter.
No, this will be cut in half. Yeah. I will warn, the next episode there's maybe like a 0.5% lower than we would normally go. But I didn't want to like dive another 0.5% into the next chapter. That just felt wrong.
It is. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So we will cover chapter 5, this one, in the next episode, which is late April. But let's go ahead and dive on in. Where we left off, Ermot has been destroyed. Rhea swore vengeance. I'm trying to think of what else we had going on.
Big thing that happened is that Cuthbert,
Flag.
2 episodes ago, Cuthbert had received the note from Shimi about that Rhea was sending to Cordelia. Cuthbert returned to the Barquet and confronted Roland with that, punching him in the face, sucker punching him.
Yeah.
And, getting him to snap out of it, realizing that even though he was right to wait, he was right for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
So Roland cried his pardon and everything like that. Roland came to his senses and realized that the four of them, the three boys and Susan, need to meet.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of it, because, of course, there's multiple storylines going on at the same time.
Yeah.
What Tad said, Reynolds or Depape? It's Depape.
Depape, yeah. We haven't
was,
seen Reynolds in a while.
He's actually right here.
In this, but we haven't seen him.
We haven't seen him for a minute. Yeah,
yeah, it's been a minute.
Depape was waiting for Jonas back at the Traveler's Rest after Jonas went and sabotaged the boys' house and killed their pigeons.
Yeah,
and said to go to Seafront. There's a man waiting for them, and Depape was all shaken up. Turns out that was Flag. Well,
yeah.
Tad believes it's Flag. It never explicitly says the word Randall Flag.
Only a fool would not believe it. And I will say this episode, it does get confirmed, too.
It absolutely does.
So
he goes and meets with Flag and is shook up by him and everything. So that's what happened last time. And then Cuthbert and Roland went to go confront Rhea about her note. That's when Rhea sicked Ermod on him, and in self-defense, Roland blew his head off.
Self-defense.
So, Ermod struck first.
See,
Roland didn't draw on just a snake laying there in the grass. No, he was coming at him from above. That was an assassin strike from above.
He may have been just going in for a hug.
Going in for a hug with his fangs and Roland's neck.
Yeah. So sadly, Ermot has been lost. So
no.
Good night, sweet prince.
No. When Ermot's gone, it's
excellent.
That's what it is.
Right. Sad days. All right, so we are now in Chapter 5, which is titled Wizard's Rainbow. That's a fun one. We've had a lot of allusions to the Wizards, Wizard's Rainbow throughout this book. And even in the last chapter, there was a random line by Alan that was like joking, kind of jokingly referred to them, because Cuthbert said that if he didn't sucker punch Roland, he would have been black and blue, and he said, or a whole lot of other colors, and he said like the bends of the rainbow,
like the bends of the rainbow. Yeah.
So we've had a number of allusions to the Wizard's Rainbow. So,
Roland's father told him to watch out for one. So
yeah. So there's been a number of allusions throughout this book. So to have this chapter titled that is very fun.
Very fitting.
King's very good with those, where you'll see a chapter title and be like, wait, what?
Wait, what?
So let's go ahead and dive on into Subchapter 1.
Yeah, so Subchapter 1, 3 days after Roland and Cuthbert visited the Coos and killed that filthy snake, Roy and Clay walked upstairs to the Traveler's Rest to the bedroom that Coral Thorin kept there. We've been to this bedroom once before, and...
Yeah.
Clay knocked, and Jonas called for them to come in. The first thing they saw when they entered was Coral herself sitting in a rocker by the window doing some knitting. She greets them, and they are very surprised to see her. Outside, some firecrackers go off. Kids could never wait for the big day when they have crackers in their hands.
I mean, we don't have firecrackers in Utah, technically.
Yeah.
Although the last couple of years, there's been some like ones that are essentially firecrackers. But for some reason, firecrackers and bottle rockets are always outlawed in Utah. Yeah. So it's kind of weird.
Firecrackers are just the ones that you just light and they just pop, pop.
No, they just pop.
Oh, that's
singular
it?
Pop, yeah. You're thinking like the crackling balls, which we do have. Those are a cornerstone of my childhood.
No, I'm thinking of what's the ones that Kevin McAllister puts under the pot?
Oh, yeah, because that's a brick of firecrackers.
That's a brick of firecracker. Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
I thought that's how they always came. I didn't know you could.
You could.
So you break them off and
use them one at a time.
I mean, again, I've never known because we never had them.
Yeah.
So.
My first note, R.I.P. Ermot.
No.
Sad days.
No.
We did see Rhea try to bring him back to life, too. So
several. Yeah, she was casting incantations, and none of it worked because Roland's bullet took his head off.
Yeah, sad.
Beheaded him like a French person in the French Revolution. And my note here, just ain't it true that a kid couldn't wait to set off fireworks? The weeks leading up to the 4th of July, always preceded by fireworks.
Yeah, and then my note, no kidding, we have 2 firework holidays in July, the 4th, and then later in the month we have a Utah holiday. It's equally utilized as fireworks. Mm-hmm. The rules and the laws are a few days before and a few days after each holiday, but basically the entirety of July is fireworks wall to wall.
Oh, it's like, so frustrating, too, when you have to work early like I do. It's like trying to go to bed on a Sunday night at, like 8, 9 o'clock. And there's people out there like, cool, it's getting dark. Let's set off fireworks. It's like,
yeah. Yeah. So I totally feel the idea of not being able to wait, although I don't think it's only children.
No, it's definitely not. Hi, Spencer. Thanks for joining us. So that's okay. So going on, Depape turns to Reynolds, who shrugged, then crossed his arms to hold the sides of his cloak. It was his way of expressing doubt or disapproval or both. Jonas asked if there's a problem from the bathroom doorway. He was wiping shaving soap from his face. He was bare to the waist. Depape had seen him shirtless many times, but the scars on Jonas's back still made him a little sick to his stomach. Depape said he knew that they were using the lady's room, but he didn't know that the lady came with it. Jonas says that she does, crosses to the bed and grabs his shirt. Coral glanced up and gave his back a greedy look and then went back to her knitting.
I never picture her as a knitter.
Yeah,
I mean, we haven't really gone deep with Coral, but like we
got the whole alcoholic chapter where she like walks into the bar and Petty the Trotter's like, "Hey, here's a shot of whiskey." And she's like, "Jesus Christ, it's not even 2:00."
Yeah, I mean, I think we've had enough exposure to her though that like knitting is just not something I would have expected for her.
I know.
I didn't have a note for that, but I just every time I read that, it strikes me funny where it's like, wait, she's a knitter?
She's knitting? like, yeah.
I don't know. In our world, it's usually like very innocent, wholesome people that do knitting.
Yeah.
You know, old ladies and whatnot.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect like a chick who's hanging out with the bikers and Son of Anarchy. All of a sudden, she's over there knitting. Yeah,
and exactly.
Stuff,
That's exactly kind of how I view Coral.
Yeah, she's involved in some shady shenanigans, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously she's here shacking up with Jonas. You know,
Yeah.
so like. Picture women like that are over there, just like, let me knit you something.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed.
So Jonas puts on his shirt and asks how things are at Sitco. Quiet, they report, but it would get noisy. A certain vagabundos, I took that verbatim from the book, decided to poke around.
I'm guessing like vagabond.
Vagabond
it's like but it's like
King's version of vagabond.
Yeah, it's kind of like what would you call it, like Latinizing? Because it's kind of like a Mexican vibe. Because you got like serapes and some other stuff, so I wonder if that's just like taking like almost a Spanish twist on like vagabonds.
Isn't vagabond a Spanish word?
I don't think so. It doesn't sound Spanish.
Oh, I thought it was.
But vagabond being like
vagabundos. It's kingivizing it.
Yeah,
is what it is.
But it's in a cool way because I think that he's really done a good job of like kind of spelling out kind of the regional what it looks like here.
Exactly.
So and there's a lot of like Spanish speaking. Like you got a lot of like accents and beyond the serapes and then like they wear
sombreros,
sombreros, the hat.
Sriraches.
What do you call the thing you wear? Like man with no name. I'm blanking on
serape. It's a serape, isn't it?
I don't know. All right. Either way, I think there's another word for it. But yeah, I had one as a kid. My family went down to Arizona or something and bought us some. And of course, me as a young child got that and thought, oh, this is something like a Jedi would wear. And that's pretty much how I interpret it.
It's what Luke wears in Episode 4 when they're walking around Mos Eisley.
Yeah, there's a name for it.
It's not serape. I was wrong.
Yeah.
I think they say it later. Let me keep going. I think they actually say it later when a certain someone shows up. Okay, hold on. Jonas asked how many Poncho. That's what it is.
I googled what does the man with no name wear.
It's a poncho.
Ponchos. Okay, I knew there's a word and it was driving me nuts.
There's a Spanish word for it too that I'm trying to think of. Jonas asked how many are stationed out there at Sitco. 10 in the day, dozen at night, and then Roy or Clay riding out every shift.
Which is why we haven't seen Reynolds probably recently.
They keep going out back and forth to Sitco. Jonas nodded but wasn't happy. He had hoped to draw the boys out by vandalizing their place and killing their pigeons. Yet they still hid behind their hillock. He felt like a man in a field with 3 young bulls, and he was holding a red flag. But why weren't they charging him? Why? And that's how it's put in the book. Really upset kind of question.
That's going to be pretty frustrating. When you're strategically trying to draw someone out and they don't fall for it. Because, even in movies and stuff, people always fall for it, right?
Always, yeah.
So, yeah.
It's always a thing. Yeah.
It's got to be unsettling.
It's like, why isn't he taking the bait?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So my note here, so Coral is getting into all of this. Here she is talking about their plans and everything. We knew her and Jonas got together, but now we're seeing actual planning happening with her, in the room. And I was just wondering, did we get an interaction where she was involved like that before?
And I don't think so. She's proven to be a pretty nasty person throughout the story, but not really by not really buying into much of belief in the town and stuff. So I don't think it's a shocker that she's involved here, but I don't think we've had overt calls that she was involved in the shenanigans.
Yeah, because she was we definitely know that Rimer's involved. We definitely know that the mayor is one of those, you just don't tell me.
Yeah.
Kind of guys.
Yeah.
And then the Horsemen's Association we know is deeply involved. But we had no real knowing of how much does Coral know? How much is she involved in everything?
I mean, we know that she's probably got some power because at one point they were telling us how with the mayor becoming mayor, there's been a number of like donations made to like her because it's kind of a way to like it's like money laundering, right?
Yeah.
Like he can't overtly like give cattle or horses whatever to himself, but if Coral
receives all of that,
yeah.
That's nice of you, sir, so and so, to give my sister this. That's very nice of you.
Did they even say that maybe she took like all the property he had?
She was saying because he can't own as a mayor, so she owns the Traveler's Rest, like
whatever like ranch they may probably have.
The actual like ranch for the family is hers, and then a couple other things they list like other things that she owns. So she owns a bunch of stuff.
So I will say I don't think that it's necessarily, again, I don't think it's a shocker, but I don't think we've been giving anything up to this point that I could recall that shows us that she would be involved. But it's not at all a surprise.
It's like, oh, okay, so yeah, she is now fully involved. And then my next note, Jonas is feeling uneasy because he made a move, and what was supposed to happen didn't. Interesting that Jonas thinks that they would have struck at Sitco, but my question is, when Cuthbert wanted Jonas's head, when Roland and him were going at each other before Cuthbert rode off a Meshimi and got the note, he's like, Alam, let's go find this motherfucker and let's kill him.
Yeah.
Not let's go to Sitco and blow shit up and attack the tankers. Let's go find Jonas and kill him. And that's just my question. Would he have bothered with the oil patch? I think Cuthbert was just out for blood with Jonas.
So I think where the disconnect is coming is he does know that they went snooping there, but that was
he found the lookout skull there.
But that was Roland with Susan, and the lookout thing was like when they were on watch outside, like on the outer area
on the road.
So it's like he probably just assumed though that the boys on their own went there, found a bunch of shit. So he probably assumes they at least know part of their plan, and he probably understands that, or he probably thinks that they know at least about the Sitco in a small way.
I mean, I think he knows fully that they know about Sitco because he found the lookout there. So he's like, okay, so they know about
and the tracks,
which is why he's had in the tracks, and that's why he's had a guard there ever since.
Yeah, but I think that's where the disconnect is Susan, because he never equated that into his thing. So he didn't think like, oh, Susan was going and showing her lover this place, and then they were having a little hanky panky. He just thought, oh, the boys all went over there. They know that part of our plan. Yeah. So if they're ever going to strike to truly hurt, they're going to go there because, I mean, ultimately he's deputized now too.
Right.
So, like, he probably feels slightly untouchable because, like, are you really going to roll up into the town hall or the town square?
Traveler's Rest and just walk in and just blow Jonas away?
Yeah, kill a deputy of the town.
See, that's what I'm asking is because, like, when you go back and read that part again with Cuthbert and Alan there, right at the end of that subchapter where they're like, go for a ride, clear your head and everything like that. Cuthbert's like, come on, Alan, let's go find this son of a bitch and kill him.
Yeah.
Like, he's not talking about anything else except killing Jonas. He doesn't talk about let's get revenge on Jonas. See, like then I feel like it's ambiguous. Like, what are they going to do? Are they they're going to go blow up Sitco. They're going to go kill the horses or steal the horses.
But I don't think he knows they know anything about the horses. I think he only of the entire plan that our boys have found out so far. I think the only thing he truly knows that they know is Sitco.
So you're talking about Jonas.
Jonas.
Okay, I thought you were saying Cuthbert. No. Cuthbert knows.
No.
Yeah.
So, and again, like I think Jonas looks at it from the fact of he's got a badge on. There's no way that they're going to have the gall. And now Cuthbert, if he was left to his own devices, he would have basically done one of the most disastrous things. He would have gone straight into like the heart of the town and killed a deputy.
Yeah.
Which would have been the end of his life. Like he would have been strung.
He would have been arrested for murder and tried and convicted and executed.
Yeah.
And,
so I think Jonas is probably assuming that like if not just Will Dearborn or all of them are smart enough to know they couldn't do that because of the badge. So they're going to go after Sitco.
They would go after Sitco as their revenge instead.
That's how
he's planning on the three of them working together.
Yes.
And I guess that's where the big problem is that Jonas has no idea that they're not working together.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot.
They're at odds. It's interesting.
It's all the holes in that we know that he doesn't. He doesn't know about. Well, he only recently learned about the Susan and Dearborn thing from Cordelia. So that's kind of new. But I wonder if he doesn't really see that as crossing paths with any of this.
Yeah.
And he just sees that like, oh, the boys went and saw some shit at Sitco. I found their tracks. I found the lookout.
Yeah, exactly.
And so like in his mind, he's like, well, they're not going to come after me, but they know that we're doing something there, so they'll
Yeah.
probably try to do something out there.
It's kind of interesting how that all happens because like I've never thought about it too closely that.
Hi, old Mike. He says, stop by to say
welcome.
hi. I'll be back after dinner for Geekery Bites.
Oh, cool.
All right, see you then.
But yeah, it's just kind of interesting that Cutesbird was like, I'm going to go kill this guy. And,
Yeah.
And
So ultimately,
but
Roland
that's not Roland
was right.
Yeah, Roland was right. Is that
That you can't go out like
no,
yeah.
you can't.
No, not to mention he would have been on the lookout for like chances are Clay and Depape and Reynolds would have had probably some crossfire thing,
Mm-hmm.
and then even if he had come into town, they would have just fucking gunned him down, right?
I mean,
Like-
he does end up in town and runs into Shimi.
yeah,
so.
but he runs into him out on the road.
Oh, it's not in town. I
No,
thought it
he's
was-
he's pacing because he doesn't want to go back into town because then he's got to.
Right. He
Yeah.
runs into him, but he was on his way to. Dude, that's so lucky that he run into Shimi because if he hadn't, my God.
But I think they would have been able to read whether he was actually coming to hurt him or not. If he
Yeah.
would have just rolled into town on his own, fine. But there's like a vengeance that you could see in people. If they would have seen that,
riding with a purpose. Kind
yeah,
of thing.
exactly. Then there was probably a bushwhack that would have like killed him without him being within 100 yards of Jonas. Would be my guess. But yeah, like it definitely. Roland is right, even though in the heat of the moment, I don't even think we necessarily saw it. But now
Yeah.
in retrospect, it's like no, it's probably good that he didn't go off half cocked and
Yeah,
went after
absolutely.
Jonas. So.
Yeah. So going on, Jonas asks about the moving operation for the tankers and is told that the 4 tankers are moved at night in pairs. Then he asked if, so Depape is answering, he asked if Jonas still wanted half left behind his bait. Jonas said that he did. And there was a knock on the door. Depape jumped and asked, is that? And Jonas said, no, our friend in the black robe has decamped. Perhaps he goes to offer comfort to the good man's troop before battle. Depape laughed and Coral looked up for a moment but said nothing. Jonas called, it's open, and in walked a man dressed as a vaquero, or farmer. He's wearing a sombrero, serape, and sandals. See, that's where I got the word serape from, is I thought that's what it was.
I actually don't know what a serape is. So, also vaquero is Spanish for cowboy.
Cowboy,
So
yeah.
it's like again, I love that because they're adding all this stuff in to give us the vibe that like,
Yep.
this is like frontier, right? This is like southern New Mexico, southern Arizona in the late 1800s. That's the vibe.
Utah territories, yeah.
That's the
that kind of
vibe you're
thing.
getting with this area, which I love because King he's kind of built out a pretty unique thing in Midworld. Like I think we've kind of we saw almost a version of New York. Gilead almost seems like old, Arthurian shit with castles and stuff, and then here we are with the
Yeah.
frontier in Mexico in the 1800s. That's pretty cool.
Gotcha. Yeah, serape is the word. I was just spelling it wrong when I Googled it, and it wasn't coming up because apparently there's a
That's
company.
a poncho.
It's very similar to a poncho. Apparently they're a little bit different. Poncho is like a simple loose garment. Serape is a little bit heavier, more blanket, shawl, or cloak type is what it's saying.
Okay.
What's
Yeah,
what's the difference between a poncho and a serape?
Okay. I guess we think of like rain ponchos and stuff
Like
too.
the slick ones that you wear.
Yeah.
Like you go to a baseball game, you put on a rain poncho if there's a chance for rain and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah, like
but serapes are more like the man with no name wears
Yeah.
just like a serape.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's wearing a sombrero, serape, and sandals. But his face was pale, and the lock of hair that could be seen was blonde. It was Latigo, a hard man, and definite improvement over the laughing man in the black robe.
It looks like Hato just showed up and says the difference is about $5.
Hey, Hayden, that's good. So yeah, days later, Depape is still jumpy. There's a knock on the door. Oh, who's that?
Yeah. I will say, sad news that Flag isn't still with us. I was hoping he'd be with us for
he's
the rest of the
gone.
story here.
Bummer.
Yeah, I was hoping. I mean, although for our boys, maybe that's a good thing.
That is a very good thing. But then again, Flag has always been a coward and runs away. So
No, it's because he's got things to take care of.
yeah, sure. But yeah, my note here, just days later, Depape is still jumpy. This is a big coffin hunter. By now, he should have been able to talk himself down from the fear, but he hasn't. That shows how truly unsettled he was by the man in black. Because there's always like that thing, like you go down for a drink of water in the middle of the night, and you swear to God you hear someone knock on your front door, and you go and you look, and there's no one there.
Yeah.
And then when you go back to bed, you're kind of freaked out. But in the morning, in the sunlight and everything like that, you're like, oh, I was just half asleep. I wasn't thinking right. Of course there was no knock on the door. I was hearing things, Depape hasn't been able to do that. He hasn't talked himself down is what I'm saying. So it's like he really got shook up, and this is not someone who gets rattled very easily.
No, this isn't just some soft, politician type.
No, exactly.
He's a ruffian.
Yeah.
So
And he's
a rapscallion.
A rapscallion, that's a good word.
Yes.
And also the fact that Jonas instantly knew who Depape was talking about says he still feels similar. Maybe not as jumpy, though.
Yeah. Yeah, in my note, and he left a huge mark on both of them, that's for sure. Because, again, the jumpiness, but also the fact that Jonas is able to clock immediately what Depape is thinking.
Yeah, he's like, no, it's not him.
Yeah. And do you think he truly knows that, or do you think that's even, like, hopeful a little bit? You know what I mean?
Oh, that he knows that he's gone?
That he's gone, yeah.
I bet you at the end of it, he's like, okay, well, I'm off. Like, I bet there was a parting there at the end that maybe gave Jonas a little bit of insight.
Bobby
to where
Terry
he's off
can
to.
tell you one thing, is that flag can pop back up very quickly.
This is true. This is true. See, we do reference other things. Any bump in the night is unsettling, says Hayden.
Maybe a caress along your neck as you're walking in a dark hallway.
Ooh, when you're going downstairs, it's the worst.
Oh, yeah.
Especially on the back of your ankle.
Especially grabby stairs.
Oh, yeah. Grabby stairs are the worst. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, man. Do you have another note there?
You had one more, didn't you? Oh, no, we already talked about that.
Yeah, and
Randall Flagg's
probably
gone.
good
Yeah.
for our boys that Flag is gone. We mentioned it last episode where it's like, okay, they're at odds with each other. The
Horsemen's Association is all against them.
Everything's against them, and then on top of that, you're adding one of the most villainous characters and most crafty, right? Like
Yeah.
like Flag is a very crafty motherfucker. You don't need him added in. And also the fact that the entire purpose of this was to hide Roland from him.
Yeah.
And immediately, like, well, not immediately because it's been months, but like, do you think that Flag
yeah.
didn't know exactly where Roland was at?
No, that's what we were talking about last time. Is we absolutely believe that this is all like, okay, he's going to go along here, and he's going to stop there, and they're going to camp there, and then okay, they're here, and this is what's going to happen now.
Yeah. So it's just it all felt like a lot was being stacked against our boys. So it's at least good that one of them we can take off the table.
Yes.
And also they're starting to make up. They're not at odds with each other anymore. So maybe things are swinging back the other direction a little bit, which is good because it was starting to look a little dire there.
Yeah, my last note here, I don't think I ever noticed that Latigo is blonde. Like, it just
yeah, I wouldn't have
kind of
pictured
just
that.
glossed over it every time, especially with the description that King gives. Oh, he's wearing a serape and sandals.
You know who I always
sombrero.
pictured? Who I always pictured for Latigo?
Who?
The guy from Tombstone that slightly speaks Spanish. Oh, he's talking crazy. He's
And
talking about
he's got the split mustache. He doesn't have anything right here above,
Yeah.
like right above his lip.
Yeah.
It's off to the sides.
Yeah.
Dude, that's exactly who I picture too.
That's who I've always pictured.
That's crazy.
So I've always pictured for Latigo. It's like, oh, he's talking about a sick horse or
Well,
something.
especially with the way that they I forget which narrator does book 4. Is it?
It's Frank. Yeah.
Especially with the way Frank has him, because it comes up here in this next section. He's got a very clip way of talking, and it's like this. That's not what I picture with like a blonde guy who's described here in this next section as being from the north.
Yeah.
Kind of almost gives it like a little bit of like a Nordic feel.
Yeah.
And everything. So it's just like interesting that.
And Latigo is not a very northern name in our world.
No, it's
I mean,
not. Yeah.
It's our world, so we can't apply that to this world. But yeah, just not what I would expect either.
Yeah.
Being blonde.
Latigo says it's good to see them. His face is dour and
Hayden says it's just Owen Wilson.
it's just Owen Wilson. Looks like a man.
He never says wow.
Wow. Looking like a man who hasn't seen anything good in years, maybe since his birth. He asks Jonas how Jonas is and if things march. Jonas says he is good and that they do march. They shake hands, but Latigo doesn't offer to shake with Depape or to shake Depape's or Reynolds' hand. Instead, he turns to Lady Coral and says, "Long days and pleasant nights." She says, "May you have twice the number," without looking up from her knitting. Latigo sits on the edge of the bed and starts to roll a cigarette and says he won't stay long because he doesn't fit in. Reynolds says no, he doesn't. Latigo gives him a sharp glance, but then he turned back to Jonas and said they were camped about 30 wills west of Eyebolt Canyon, and then asked what is the wretched noise inside the canyon. It frightens the horses. Jonas says it's a thinny. Reynolds says it scares the men too, and it's best to stay away. Just for this little brief interaction here, Latigo doesn't seem to like Depape or Reynolds much, does he? But he paid respect to Coral. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, so I could see this one of two ways. Either he just sees them as just like goons, like below his notice, and it's more of just like, okay, like I hired Jonas, like he brought you two along, but you're nothing to me. Like you're just
Right.
hired goons. Now with the Coral part, it could just be chivalry that he's given something to her, and
Greeting the lady in the room.
and also we're going to find a little bit later in this chapter that he knows a lot about this town, so maybe he understands who she is and her connections to the power structure. But then again, on the other side of the coin of it maybe being disrespectful to the two, maybe marking her at the greeting and not the two of them is a way to slight them. because this is a very like not chauvinistic, a very patriarchal
Yes.
society. Women don't have that high of place in this society, it seems. So for him to ignore them but greet her, like, and again, he employs these three, not her. So to then ignore two of the people you employ, but then like it could be a slight at them. So
Yeah.
you could read it either way, I guess. But in my mind, I was like, maybe it's more of just like it's a chivalry thing where it's like, oh, there's a lady here. Like, you two mean nothing to me. You're nothing but like the gunk under my fingernails.
Right.
But hey, there's a lady here. Let me, doff my cap to her type thing. I don't know.
Exactly.
Could be either way.
It could be either one. I like both of them, honestly. So going on, Jonas asked how many men he has. 100, says Latigo, and well-armed. Jonas says, yeah, so were Lord Pursemen. Latigo says, don't be an ass. I love that line in the audiobook. Don't be an ass. The way he says it. Jonas asked if they have seen any fighting. Latigo says enough to know what it is. Jonas knew that he was lying. Farson had kept his veterans in the mountains with him. Latigo says there are a dozen at Hanging Rock guarding the tankers that they've already brought from Sitco so far. Jonas says that if that is more than it is needed, and Latigo snaps that he didn't come into this godforsaken shit splat of a town to discuss his arrangements with Jonas. Jonas cries his pardon and sits next to Coral's rocker on the ground and starts to roll a smoke. She puts her knitting aside and starts stroking his hair. Depape didn't get what it was about Coral that Jonas found so fascinating. To him, she looked like an old bitch with a big nose and mosquito-bumped titties. Tell us how you really feel.
I mean, I will say I don't think I've ever pictured Coral being good looking either.
No, like that was one of the things. Like when Coral was seducing Jonas, she's like, "I may be old, but I can still spread him to the edge of the bed and everything."
Yeah. You know who I always picture with her?
Who?
The older lady in Unforgiven. There's like the ladies and like the one.
Oh,
like,
dude, I don't remember that movie at all.
The one guy like cuts the girl up because she laughs at his tiny dick, and it's like the older lady that takes more charge. I don't know why that's who I picture.
Okay.
For Coral, probably because she's like a little bit older, more in charge of things. So yeah.
Okay. So my note here: at first hearing Latigo has 100 well-armed men is just unsettling for me. Not only is it bad enough that we have to worry about the traitors here in Magus, but now 100 armed Farson troops who will absolutely kill them if they get a chance. There's a little bit with the Horsemen's Association where it's like they have to earn the death from the Horsemen's Association. They have to do something to really fuck them up.
Yeah.
In order for them to lash out. Latigo's men?
Yeah.
In a second, they'd kill Roland and his boys.
Yeah. I mean, I will say at least Jonas doubts their combat experience, so it doesn't sound like we've got like real hard asses.
That's my
here.
next note. Then there's a little glimmer of hope for the boys. At least the troops aren't going to be battle-hardened veterans.
Yeah.
Still, 100 is a lot for these boys / young men.
This is like March 1945 Germany.
Yeah.
It's all old men and children.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's at least a comfort because, yes, our boys here are 14-year-old boys, but they're highly trained boys, and one of them is a gunslinger already. So my note here, it's interesting it is interesting what Jonas sees in Coral. I wonder if it's just that she's so nihilistic that she kind of just fits with Jonas's worldview more than most women.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's that she is close to the power structure of the town, and he is simply trying to weasel his way closer to that power structure. Like whatever might be happening behind closed doors that he's not privy to, she might be, and she could like give him information. So far he's done that with like Cordelia. We've seen him be kind of a succubus that's like getting information from people and stuff. So maybe it's even just that, and like ultimately what better person than the sister of the mayor would you get to where if there were someone trying to like, if there was some weird thing going on behind the scenes where they were going to try to fuck you over, he could find it from Coral. I don't know. I just with his past record of what we've seen with him, I could see it either way. But also, she is such a. I mean, she was kind of like I called her earlier, like a nasty person. Like when our boys met him in the welcome dinner, she's not
nice.
She's just not. She doesn't have any. She's not trying to be proper.
Right.
Nothing. She's just there's something kind of nasty and negative about every aspect of her.
See, I wonder
and
that's where
that's probably what Jonas is like, right? He doesn't seem like a happy person.
He's not a very happy person. He talks about like, how, I mean, we've seen him. He's just kind of a mean dude and everything like that. But I think part of it also is that maybe he's a little bit older than, who was it, Depape or Reynolds, whoever couldn't see it. So when you get a little bit older, all of a sudden looks may not be the most important thing, is that she's a little bit more compatible with him. Yeah. Like you were saying with like the world views and stuff like that. I'm getting up there a little bit in age and I'm not, 22 anymore, but I think that one of the big things is finding someone compatible with your worldviews versus, oh, does she look good, kind of thing. So.
Yeah. I remember my grandpa always told me that years ago. Is he's like, if you all you do is chase after looks, he's like, you're going to be disappointed because looks always go away. He's like, so you got to find someone that is more than looks. Like
the saying that I was told is that looks fade, but a personality is forever.
Yeah,
and so that's where maybe Jonas is looking at. Oh, she's a little bit harder than some of these, especially someone like Cordelia, who obviously is not at all a good person.
Yeah.
I mean, not that Jonas wants a good person, but not a good fit for him.
No, yeah, because
he's looking for someone that can,
because she thinks so much about what others see in her.
Exactly.
And like she's kind of all in that whole like, I don't know, like hypocritical, like I must appear this way. Like he's not going to fall in with something like that.
Well, it's also caring what people that are, like she cares what her neighbors think of her.
Yes, exactly.
Coral doesn't necessarily care.
No.
Doesn't necessarily care. I mean, she does a little bit with like the drinking,
the day drinking, yeah,
but the
or
thing
morning
is
drinking.
the morning drinking, yeah, because it was even before noon that she was trying to get her to here have a shot of whiskey, kind of thing. But I think that's more because she is a businesswoman kind of thing.
Yeah,
and so that's why I think Jonas just respects her a little bit more than Cordelia or someone else like that.
Yeah, Cordelia was all about getting information, and
that was purely just for his gain.
Yeah.
I think there's something a little bit different with Coral. Hayden has an explanation. She says as long as she can take her teeth out is probably what.
Well, like you said, she said she can get her legs to the edge of the bed. So
yeah, no, and that's what I'm saying is like, it not necessarily is like looks is not everything. Maybe it is that she. I mean, Jonas says it when he's leaving to go vandalize the boy's place. He's never had better.
Yeah.
So maybe the sex does play a part for it here with Jonas as well. So
yeah. Hi, Agamorphe, welcome.
Oh, welcome. So that was your note, right? We're good?
Yeah.
Okay, Latigo says, as for the three young men, with an arrow going straight to the heart of the matter. He says the good man was extremely disturbed to learn that they were visitors from Inworld and Magus, and that Jonas says they aren't what they claim to be, so what are they? Jonas brushed Coral's hand away, which didn't bother her at all. She just returned to her knitting. Jonas said they're not young men, but mere boys, and if their coming was the work of Ka, because he knows Farson is concerned with Ka, it is the work of their Ka and not the affiliations. Latigo brushes off his comment and says that they brought radios, but they either don't work at this range or they are broken. He doesn't know which, and he hates them. He calls them toys, and that the gods laugh at them. So they are on their own. Jonas is a little touchy when Latigo calls them young men, huh? Like, he doesn't even want to give them that much credit. No, they're boys. They're not young men. Like, he has to correct that.
I mean, they're 14, so I can't even call him wrong necessarily. Yeah. Like, calling a 14-year-old a young man is probably a huge stretch, right?
Yeah.
But if you're a Latigo that's hearing shit from afar, and so it's kind of like the stories that grow with every telling, right? And it's like, so suddenly young men, it's like, well, in my mind, young man is like 16 to 19, probably somewhere in that range of like, so it's like, if you're thinking that, like, it makes it worse than it is. And so Jonas is trying to like cap it and be like, no, don't worry. Don't put that much stock into it. These are just boys. So now how boys got to jump on him, that makes him look a little bit bad. But my note here, also the fact that Farson knows about the boys. Their presence is noticed not only from afar, but way up the chain.
Yeah, all the way to the tippy top. If Farson knows about it.
That's wild.
Yeah. I have my last note here. Well, that's a good thing for the boys. No reinforcements being called in since the radios aren't working.
Yeah. In our world, we know that with any kind of radio short of satellite driven, it's going to be very limited in range. But of course, they would never know that in this world.
Nope.
So
they wouldn't know how it works. They just know that it works.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Like I remember over the years I bought ones like 30-mile range, and you can usually cut that in down to like 10 miles maybe if you're lucky.
Well, especially here in Utah.
10 miles as you can see. If you could see. Then you can maybe get reception, but like if there's a mountain in the way, then
not a chance.
Yeah.
So going on, Latigo says the good man wants the lads treated as a threat to his plan, and that Walter probably told him the same thing. Jonas said that he did, and he is an unforgettable sort of man, so he's not going to easily forget what the man in black said. Latigo says that he is the good man's underliner, and the chief reason he came to see them was to underline these boys. Jonas tells Roy to tell Latigo about his visit to the sheriff the day before yesterday. Roy clears his throat nervously and says that the sheriff, Avery, Latigo cuts him off and says, "Yeah, I know him. He's a fat pig and full earth. Go on." Roy says that One of the deputies carried a message to the boys telling them to stay close to their quarters on reaping day, as barony folks don't like seeing outlanders, even ones that they like, when they keep their festivals. Latigo said, and how did the boys take it? Roy said they agreed straight away and will keep to themselves on reaping, that the boys have been very agreeable since they have been there. He says that he thinks they know it is bullshit, but no one hates seeing seeing outlanders on reaping. It usually makes them a party for merrymaking. Latigo cuts in and says, yes, the idea is to make them think that they're moving on Fair Day itself, but will they take but then they're going to take them the day before as Jonas has promised. But he wants to know is that if the boys are convinced, or are they going to be waiting for them to spring the trap? So I got a little quote here. Depape and Reynolds looked at Jonas. Jonas reached behind him and put his hand on Coral's narrow but not uninteresting thigh. Here it was. He thought he would be held to what he said next, and without grace. If he was right, the big coffin hunters would be thanked and paid, perhaps bonused as well. If he was wrong, they would likely be hung so high and hard that their heads would pop off when they hit the end of the rope. We'll take them easy as birds on the ground, Jonas said. Trees in the charge. 3 young men, all highborn in the pay of John Farson. Shocking stuff. What could be more indicative of the evil days we live in?
So they're taking this up the day before before Reap, classic deception, but I hope our boys can figure it out, because we've been basically tracking that Reap is probably when shit's all going down for I don't even know how long now. It's been probably dozens and dozens and dozens of pages. So now we're finding that, oh wait, they're doing the whole
they're going to do it the day before Reap. And that's my note here. So they were privy to the full plan for the boys. This is not good because they are making it seem like they're going to move on Reap Day.
Yeah.
And they're just going to try and slip away with the tankers and everything and go. But the plan now is that we see is that they're going to come for the boys the day before. And Jonas is going to blackmail them is what it is. Yeah. And so my last note here, Jonas has to lay his cards down now. Interesting that we've been talking about all the time being against the boys this whole time. But it was Jonas and the Coffin Hunters who were forced into the move first by time. Not Roland and his quartet, but Jonas and them have to.
I'm sure that's part of the nerves is the fact that they all knew that they were always on a deadline for this entire mission. So you're going to ultimately want to get the boys to jump at you. But ultimately you still have a deadline that you've got to hold. So
because Latigo and his men are coming. I never put that together before when we were talking about it. Even Jonas brought it up. Latigo's men will be here any day, and it's like, the clock's ticking for our boys, not the Coffin Hunters, but for our boys. But here we actually see that it's the opposite, that Jonas is really the one on the clock and everything.
Yeah.
So going on, Latigo says one cry of treason in the mob is just going to appear. Jonas smiles at Latigo and says, most common folk can't handle treason, but murder is something they understand very well, especially that of a much-beloved mayor. Depape's startled eyes flew to the mayor's sister. What a pity, she says. I may be moved to lead the rabble myself. And my only note here,
yeah, that's crazy. And then my note, there's that nihilism and dirty nature that we've been seeing from Coral all along. That is probably what is drawing Jonas to her. But on top of that, this is also another level, right? Mm-hmm. But I mean, I think earlier on somewhere in the book, there was a time when somebody was asking her about her brother, and she didn't have a lot of kind words about him. So I don't think that we've necessarily been under the illusion that she actually cares for her brother much, right?
No, she obviously doesn't.
Yeah.
She finds his infatuation with Susan silly.
Yeah. Yeah, and that all goes back
if not fully insulting. Too.
Yeah, I think that goes back to the welcome dinner. So that's a long ways back now. But I do kind of recall there's a point where she was kind of shitting on her brother in a way where it was goddamn. Now this is taking it to another level where it's oh hey, she knows that they're gonna fucking murder her brother.
And she's all for it.
Yeah, that's a different level.
That's a whole thing
to what we've seen previous. Yeah. But we have seen previous. There's not this loving brother and sister that want to lock arm in arm and skip
off down the yellow brick road.
That's not who these two probably ever were. But my God, this still
I think what you're thinking of with her talking about her brother is her talking to herself when she's walking to the Traveler's Rest when she's offered the shot of whiskey by Petty the Trotter, and then she gets the note for Rhea that she's dry.
Yeah.
I think there is where we find out like how much she has in the town, like how much property, all the ownership of all the stuff that the mayor had to give up and everything. I think that's when she starts, like, internally, she's like, God, my brother's a fucking idiot. Like, internally, she's saying it.
Yeah.
And everything. I think that's what you're thinking of.
Yeah. We've certainly been given the idea that, again, they're not like, this isn't a close family.
No. No, it is not.
So
Latigo says, one other matter that they have to talk about, that a piece of the good man's property was sent with them for safekeeping. It's a certain glass ball. Well, we know what that is.
yeah.
Jonas nodded and said yes. Latigo says he understands it was left with the local bruja. Jonas says yes. Latigo tells him to take it back soon. Jonas says not to teach your grandpa to suck eggs. I don't know why, but I think that's funny. And then he says he was waiting for the boys to be jugged. Reynolds asked if Latigo had seen it up close. Latigo says not up close, but he has seen men who have. One ran mad and had to be shot, and the other on the edge of the big desert was a hut dweller who had been bit by a rabid coyote. Bless the turtle, Reynolds muttered. Tapped his throat 3 times. He was terrified of rabies. Same, Reynolds, same. After I've read some stuff and learned, like, in
The
the
realities of it?
Yeah, learned. It's like within the last 5 years or so that I learned
Yeah.
about, like, the realities of, like, rabies. Once it gets past a certain point in the disease, is 100% fatal.
Yeah.
There is no cure if you reach, like, a certain stage of it.
Yeah.
Like, God, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Oh.
I thought it just turned your best friend on you. Old Yeller?
No. I thought you were talking about Oi.
No, Old Yeller.
Yeah. That's,
No, yeah, I mean, maybe Oid should be checked for rabies. He did
Stop
attack
it.
Jake on that
God
bridge. and
damn
all.
it.
So.
That's what I thought you were going for, was that joke.
No, it's the old Yeller.
Yeah, the old Yeller.
I saw a reaction video. Somebody was recently I was watching, and they were watching Deadpool and Wolverine. He's like, "You're gonna Old Yeller my world," and the person that was watching like, "I've never seen Old Yeller. I don't know. I don't get that reference."
Oh.
I'm like, "You should watch Old Yeller.
Oh.
You should watch Old Yeller." Although I will say that it's probably a lot more like damaging to children
It is.
than it is to adults. Now, I'm not saying that it's not hard on adults, but
A death of a dog is always hard, no matter
no,
what.
I know, but
If you have a hard one like you.
like Jake said, though, it's easy to fuck with children,
It
right?
is.
It's easy to manipulate children's emotions and stuff.
Absolutely.
So, and he said that storytellers know that, and he kind of cursed him for it.
Yeah.
So, my note here, not sure Rhea's gonna be happy to have the ball taken from her. It's been pretty much her obsession almost the entire story now. I mean, the first
moment we see her is with the ball.
she has it, but I don't think she was fully addicted to it then.
No, because it just got delivered
Yeah, it
right
just
before. Right before, like, literally, the ball gets delivered, and then like an hour later, Susan's supposed to be there.
Yeah, so maybe that's probably the only time we've seen Rhea that she wasn't pretty much fully in the grasp of the ball.
Yeah.
Was that first chapter, which is literally the beginning of this story. This not the book, but the story, because we did have the Blaine stuff to resolve. So yeah,
Do you
like
think-
we've seen the obsession with her to the point where she's not eating, she's not cleaning herself, like she's
Yeah.
withering away. Like she lost her her hatred for Susan for a bit. Not that she she just forgot.
She forgot. Yeah.
So like this ball has been all consuming to her. So I don't know that she's going to want to give that up.
Yeah.
Just that's kind of a guess. I don't know.
I think you're right, Ted. I think you're onto something.
King's been not that. I mean, I think we kind of knew from that beginning that she was given it to kind of safekeeping for a short period. But until now, I don't think we've really given much thought to the fact that hey, they're going to be coming to take that away from you at some point. And
Exactly.
I know she hasn't thought of it.
No.
So yeah.
Latigo says you won't.
I get more view with the dog emoji.
And it's a golden retriever too. Latigo says you won't bless anything if the wizard rainbow gets a hold of you. He looks at Jonas and says that we will want to be extra careful taking it back. And then when they had given it to her, the old witch woman is likely under its glam by now. Jonas says he was planning to send Rimer and Avery. Latigo says that won't do. Jonas tightens his hand on Coral's leg and smiles unpleasantly at Latigo. Won't it? Perhaps you could tell your humble servant why it won't do. It was Coral who answered, saying that when the wizard's rainbow is taken back, the poor Chancellor will be busy accompanying her brother to his final resting place. Depape asks what she is talking about, and Jonas says that Rimer dies too. Another murder to lay at the feet of John Farson's filthy spy boys. Coral smiled in sweet agreement and moved Jonas's hand higher on her thigh, then picked up her knitting again. Oh no. Like, now we have a full plan that is it's a really good plan too. Framed for murder when you're an outsider is
Yeah.
never a good spot to be in.
No.
Like I understand that the Magus on a whole is supposed to be like pro affiliation and pro gunslingers and everything like that. But if you kill someone that they like, especially their mayor
Well,
and the chancellor,
And they're going to spin it that they're working for Farson.
and their Farson spy boys, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is bad.
Yeah, and then my note, not just murder, but assassination. I think that's so much worse. Even if you don't particularly like a leader or a politician, if they're killed by an outsider, you're going to band together and pay back their death.
Oh yeah,
Like, that's just more, because
Yeah.
there's like some element of like representation. Even if you're not like totally like, into the politician and like them, like there's just an element
you
of
still don't touch our guy.
Exactly. It's kind of like the brother thing. It's like, I could pick on my brother all I want, but you can't touch him type thing. Like, so I think there's that kind of vibe too. So it's like just murder is one thing, but assassination of pretty much the top level people of your town, like, that's not going to go well.
No, it's not. And then like you said also is not only the assassination, but also that, oh, whoops, they're Farson's assassins.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they're gunslingers and the affiliation and they assassinated our mayor. Well, maybe they had a reason to. You know, they're the white. They're the good guys. But when you spin it that they're working for the bad guys,
Yeah.
even the people who aren't involved in the conspiracy are going to now want the boys' heads.
Yeah.
My last note here before we go on to subchapter 2 is I just find it kind of funny how Depape and Reynolds are reacting to Coral being involved. I didn't take a note of this, but I want to say one more thing. Jonas doesn't have any intentions of killing Rimer right here.
Yeah.
Coral decides it. We were just talking about like the power structure of Hambury and everything like that, and how she's like kind of slid her way in, and maybe Jonas is recognizing that and using her to kind of watch his own back, but also kind of insert himself in a good spot in the town's hierarchy and everything.
Yeah.
Do you think that Coral just decided here Reimer's got to go because then she'll go from number 3 to number 1?
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
like that. I'm the 5th heir to the throne, so let me kill the other 4.
Also, isn't there that kind of that element in like organized crime and shit where it's like, if you'll betray your side for me, that means I can never trust you now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to take you into my confidences.
Right.
Like, you've just proven to me you're a traitor.
Yeah.
So, like, there could be that aspect, too, where it's like Avery ultimately is the ultimate power behind all of this. He's the one pulling the strings.
Avery?
Or I'm sorry, Rimer.
Rimer.
He's the one that's truly the power behind the throne. He's
But
the one
he is betraying
yeah.
the affiliation.
Yes.
I see what you're saying.
So it comes to a thing
he's
where,
betraying Farson. So Coral's like,
no, he's betraying the affiliation.
Affiliation
So Farson
for
and them
Farson.
Yeah, he's going to look at it like, well, you've proven to me you're a traitor. I'm not fucking trusting you. So the first thing I'm going to do is give you your 30, pieces of gold, and then you're going to get fucking killed, and then we'll take your gold back, and
Yeah, but that's the interesting thing is that it's not Latigo, it's not Jonas, it's not
Latigo's-
anyone with Farson.
Yeah, Latigo's the one that says that won't do. He's the one that started it.
Oh, that's true. He does say it. You're right.
So
Latigo kind of, and so Coral kind of
maybe
jumps
Coral's
on
the smarter one, the smartest. I think it's Latigo says it. I think Coral picks up immediately what's being said, but I think Jonas does too. He's the next one to catch it.
Yeah.
Because he answers, is it Roy or Depape?
It's one of the two, yeah.
Like that Jonas is, oh yeah, like
Depape asks what she's talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Jonas answers. So you can kind of see it's like a domino effect of who's catching on to
Interesting.
what Latigo's laying down. But I think that's what it comes down to is it's like, the mayor's one thing, like he's kind of just an idiot, but yeah, when you've got that true power behind the throne, like
The Rimer, yeah, like
you
that's the thing is like when you see assassinations, you're like, kill the president, kill the vice president, and then the third person takes over. But if like there's an advisor that really is the power behind it, that kind of thing, then you're going to take that person out as well.
yeah, because ultimately,
Well, it's like perfect example for realistic ones. The Russians with shed a space on his name, Rasputin.
yeah,
Like you're not just going to kill the Tsar and the Queen. If you want to take over, you got to kill Rasputin too,
yeah.
because he really was like the power behind the throne kind of thing.
Well, also when it comes to like Reimer, is because he would become the power once the mayor is dead. Like if there's anyone that can turn that entire town on Farson, it's him. You know, so again,
And again, that's back to what you were saying, is that
it's the power dynamic.
he's already
he's got.
betrayed one side. Why wouldn't
Yeah.
he has the potential that he could betray me. So let's just take that out and not worry about it.
Yeah, and maybe he just wants to go, you know what, fuck this, we're going to be completely independent. We don't fall into the affiliation or Farson. I am the absolute fucking despot for this town now. It's my town.
They
Fuck
actually
you all.
talk about that a little bit with Rimer, with his love for the color purple, because
Yeah,
that means
it's
royalty.
royal, and yeah.
And then doesn't someone say to him about talking about like bringing back? Oh, it's Jonas. Oh, maybe they'll bring back the barons, and
Yeah.
Rimer's eyes like glint, and he's like, "Oh, I see that you would like that."
Yeah.
Maybe Jonas reported that,
Yeah.
and now they're like, "Nope, fuck this guy. He's
Yeah.
dead."
Yeah, too much ambition
Yeah,
can get you killed.
yeah.
So.
He doesn't know where to stop to be on the hierarchy. He always feels it's kind of like the kid in the sand.
Yeah.
I'm going to get there. I'm going to lay low, and I'm going to know what I'm going to do to take over. It's like, no, know your place.
Yeah.
Like, know that you're a lieutenant. Know that you're a sergeant.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Reimer has that ambition that he wants to be head honcho.
Yeah.
Farson doesn't allow that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Exactly.
okay.
Yeah. All right, so moving over to subchapter 2, the young girl was married. The boy was fair but unstable. They met one night for her to tell him their affair was over, but he said it would never end because it was written in the stars. She said that maybe, but some constellations change. Maybe he began to weep. Maybe she laughed, but he picked up a stone and brained her with it. Then came to his senses and realized what he had done and sat down, put her head in his lap, and cut his own throat. He died covering her face in kisses, and they were found with their lips sealed together in their dried blood. It was a story as old. It was an old story, and every town had a version of it, usually tied to the town's lover's lane or secluded spot. Once the details had been distorted enough to favor romantics, songs began to be made about it. So that's a fun.
That's a great way to start a subchapter. Like, what the hell?
Indeed. So this is like our world, where urban legends all seem to kind of match from city to city. Maybe not even urban legends, but like folk tales, maybe, because urban legends are kind of universal, like the man with the hook and like
Yep.
like folk stories, like whatever. There's like localized things. It's kind of like that.
Pecos Bill. What's the guy up there in the Northeast? Paul Bunyan.
Well, no, that's like tall tales.
Tall tales.
I'm
Oh,
talking
okay.
like folk tales, like where something that's a little bit more like set for your region.
Yeah.
Usually, so it's kind of feels like that, but it is one of those ones where everyone kind of has there's like some of those stories that are kind of the same everywhere. And
Yeah.
maybe urban legends used to be that, where it's just like everyone's like, oh well, the hook thing, and like
That existed everywhere.
yeah, exactly.
My note. Yeah, it's not only like city to city here. It's also like country to country, because it seems like it's like King shows us a really good one in The Outsider with El Cuco will come and take away the bad children.
Yeah,
There's a version of that in almost every country to keep children from being bad. I mean, we grew up with Santa Claus. You know,
Yeah.
like if you're not good, you're gonna, and everything like that.
yeah, but that's more of like the carrot or you don't get the carrot.
Yeah.
Whereas like El Cuco or Krampus.
yeah, you're gonna die.
Yeah, Krampus, like, some of these cultures, it's like, no, it's either
I
carrot
think
or
it,
stick.
I think it just kind of tamed off over time. That I don't think that's really like cultural, like okay to tell children, hey, if you're not good, you're gonna fucking die.
Yeah.
I think that maybe that's what it is that it just changed a little bit. I bet you it was still here in America back in, go back to 1902. I bet you there was parents telling their kids, hey, if you're not good, you're gonna fucking die.
Yeah.
You know?
Now they just send them to the mines.
Send them to work in the shoe factory and
Yeah.
die in a fire.
Yeah, my next note, I can't particularly think of any, but in the internet age, it's really funny to see people who post folk tales about their city or town and then see pretty much the exact same story in different towns across the country. I mean, it might say even across the planet, but I do think that some of it is very cultural. So, like, a lot of times different countries have different cultures, so the stories tend to be a little bit different.
But it all comes down, I think one thing that could be universal is the message that it's trying to convey.
Yes.
Because that's always like the thing, right? Like you gave the perfect example. The man with the hook. That's the lover's lane. That's the story told to teenagers to scare them away from going to lover's lane and making out and end up getting pregnant by having sex.
Yeah.
That was the whole purpose of it, is that this was created to stop them from that.
Yeah.
I feel like one here in America that's a big one that was completely disproven that still permeates to this day is check your kids' Halloween candy. They'll put razor blades in it, or they'll poison the candy.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a documented case of that?
The only one I've ever known that was
The guy
actually
that did it to his own kids.
to his own kids, yeah.
He did it to his own kids because there's some issue there with him and everything like that. but no one has actively like gone out like
Giving it to strangers.
giving it to other kids.
Same with like
strange
same with like
kids.
drugs. It's like, oh, they're gonna drop drugs in your kid's candy. It's like, what person's giving drugs away?
Yeah, that costs some money.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm not. I know that doesn't totally fit this, but the one that I do always think of that I think is hilarious is if I had a nickel for every time I've heard fill in the blank state. Oh, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes, it'll change.
Oh yeah.
I've heard that for at least 25 different states, and everyone
Yeah.
thinks it's unique for their state. It's like, no, it's the same with every fucking state.
You know one that I found out recently within the last about 3-4 years that is not just a Utah exclusive. I don't know if you've ever heard this one, but I was told when I was learning to drive, don't flash your headlights at someone with their lights off.
Yeah,
Because gang members ride around with their headlights off.
That's another one. Yeah, that's another one
for initiation. That
Yeah.
if you flash your lights at you, they're supposed to turn around and follow you, and it's the new gang members trying to get initiated in the gang. They follow you and they'll kill you, and that's their
Yeah.
gang initiation.
Yeah, that's another one of those ones that.
I was talking to someone who grew up in California, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we have that. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Crips and the Bloods. Yeah, definitely don't flash your lights at someone." I'm like, "Wait, that's not a Utah exclusive."
No.
Like I thought that was like something made up here for. I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
but I thought it was something for just here in Utah.
No.
because we have such huge gangs here.
Yeah, naturally.
Yeah.
So going on here, the Hambry version of the tale was Robert and Francesca, and it happened in the days before the world moved on.
Oh, real fast. Agamorphy in the chat says the boogeyman.
Yeah.
That's the one. That's the thing. Like, hey, be good or the boogeyman's going to come get you kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he will come get you. Ask Tommy Doyle. So
Sorry.
The site of the supposed murder-suicide was a cemetery. The stone which Francesca had been killed with was a slate marker, and the wall that Robert leaned his head on was when he clipped his blowpipe, which that's a fun way to say that, had been the Thorin mausoleum. And then in parentheses, though, it says it was doubtful that there had been any Thorins in Hambry or May just 5 generations back. But folktales had nothing more than were nothing more than lies set to rhyme. True or untrue, the graveyard was considered haunted by lovers who could be seen walking hand in hand at night. It was rarely, the graveyard was considered haunted that you could see the lovers walking hand by hand at night. It was rarely visited at night, and it was a logical spot for Susan and the boys to meet. So nothing sounds more fun than going and meeting in a graveyard in the middle of the night.
Absolutely.
That sounds like really fun. Now, an Ouija board would make it much funner.
Absolutely.
But too bad Hayden's not here.
I know, right?
The Salt Lake Cemetery. It's pretty big and pretty creepy.
It is.
Agamorphous has never heard of that. I am from Chicago, and yeah, there's
That's a place that you would definitely expect more gang stories than
Yeah.
Salt Lake City, Utah.
yeah. I mean, and maybe it was even a California thing because we have there's a lot of people that move from California to Utah our whole
Absolutely.
lives.
Yeah.
It's getting way worse in the last number of years, but like even as kids, you always had like 1 or 2 kids in your school
Oh, yeah.
that moved from California. So
Yeah.
maybe it's just like that cross pollination.
Absolutely, it could be that's
so,
a West Coast thing instead of an East Coast one,
Yeah.
or Central for Chicago. Sorry.
I mean, it was Valentine's Day Massacre. That's a Chicago classic there.
Yeah.
Gotta love that. I wonder if there's any cemetery in all of creation or fiction that is not thought to be haunted. Kind of lazy for us to just assume that they're all haunted, right? Like,
Yeah.
as a culture, why do we just assume every graveyard is haunted? Like,
Oh yeah, because there's dead people there. Maybe. I mean,
so what about the ocean? Why have I never heard the ocean's haunted?
It
There's
is.
a lot more. There's a lot more dead bodies in the ocean than at probably every graveyard combined.
well, I mean, the ocean is haunted. We all know this.
Yeah, sure.
I got a note here. The phrase "clipped his blowpipe" is amazing. I'm going to start using that.
It's a good one. That is a good one.
I'm going to text you and just be like next time you tell me to watch a show and someone gets their throat slit, I'm like, oh my god, they clipped his blowpipe. They clipped Joe's blowpipe.
Hopefully something happens in Daredevil soon. That'd be fun.
Ooh.
If somebody gets nicked.
Gets his blowpipe clipped.
Yeah. I love King throwing the line that Thorin's family didn't go back 5 generations, and yet it is their mausoleum that this person leaned against before the world moved on. So it just shows how it's all like fictitious,
Yeah.
but also it's kind of interesting because like 5 generations, like that is kind of a long time, but like not really. So it's kind of interesting that they would have moved that soon, into this town that potentially has been here since before the world moved on. And they're kind of they've already moved their way into becoming like the power structure. Like that's kind of interesting.
You're right. 5 generations really isn't that long ago. I just googled it. The AI overview says around 100 to 150 years into the past.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So we'd be looking at like 19 1925 ish.
Yeah.
Right around 1925 to
Yeah.
1875.
We know the world moving on was like, potentially, 100 if not thousands a year, 1,000 something years ago. It's a long ways in the past. So it's just kind of interesting that I just love how King kind of threw that in there. It makes it feel more real because that's the way it usually is, where you hear some of these stories, you're like, well, wait, no, that building didn't even exist yet. You're making up this story about it or whatever. So Roland was worried by the time they were meeting, even desperate. Susan's aunt had become a problem, even without Rhea's poisonous letter to move things further along. Cordelia's suspicion of Susan and Roland had hardened to near certainty. Less than a week before the meeting, Susan had just walked in the door with her with a basket over her arms, and Cordelia had shrieked at her that she had been out with him, and it was written all over her face. Susan had not seen Roland that day and asked who, and Cordelia had gone into a near hysterical tirade about Will Dearborn and pointed at the green on her pants and said it was from the grass they had rolled in, and Susan told her it was paint because she had been helping Chetta make the Fair Day decorations at Mayor's house. And she added that anything besides paint on her pants came from Thorin, not Will Dearborn, as he had came upon her in the shed and had worked his way on top of her and squirted in his pants again and went off happy. Susan was disgusted by him but no longer feared him. Cordelia looked at her with glittery eyes, and Susan began to wonder about Cordelia's sanity for the first time, which maybe you're a little slow on that. I don't think that she's been the most stable person since day one of this book. Cordelia said that it was like a likely story and asked if they had worked on the story as they cuddled afterwards. Cordelia was sweating and veins pulsing. She even smelled these days, no matter if she bathed or not. Susan grabbed Cordelia's hands and rubbed it on one of the pant stains, and then held her hand to her nose and asked if she smelled it. Cordelia tried to fight while crying out, but eventually she did smell the paint. Cordelia finally calmed down and granted it was paint this time.
Jeez.
So if you would have told me a couple hundred pages back that Cordelia would be getting worse, I wouldn't have imagined how it could get worse.
I couldn't imagine it. Yeah.
Here we are, right? Here we are. So Cordelia has been unbalanced and paranoid pretty much since we met her. I would have thought you couldn't have made her any worse. I mean, just think about the whole beekeeper. I mean, how long ago was that now? That was the beginning of the summer for them, right? Now we're into the late fall, getting towards reap. I never would have thought that she would have been, because it was even a welcome dinner. It's like, why did he look at you that way? You already know him. Like, wait, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, she jumped to it immediately. So.
Yeah, well, she was insane even before meeting Will Dearborn or even finding out about him. Like,
for sure.
When she got back with like the note from Rhea, she's like, okay, she went to go put it away. She's like, no, I'm supposed to keep it. That's what Rhea said.
Yeah.
What? Did she say so? Like,
yeah.
She just like, oh my God, lady, calm down.
Yeah, she's been nuts. But again, she was nuts enough that there's no way I ever would have pictured she could have got worse. But
here we are.
Here we are.
So my note, she is to the point where she just might attack Susan one time.
Yeah.
Like Susan walks in the door, she's just going to be sitting there with a fucking butcher's knife and just be like, you're dead, bitch.
Yeah.
Like, holy
shit. If it wasn't for the money on the line, I would probably worry about that.
That's true. I didn't think about that. And we know how much she loves money.
Yeah, so. Indeed. And Thorin is still sexually assaulting a 16-year-old Susan.
Ugh.
Let's not
disgusting.
Let's not overlook that.
I can't.
King's not putting us necessarily directly in the story, and we're now hearing about it after the fact, but it's still happening. So poor Susan. Also, this section started by saying Roland is growing increasingly worried, even desperate, because of Cordelia's manner. So we know that he is hearing about it all. And now that he is awake, I'm sure the weight of this all is now coming on him a lot more.
Yeah.
Because I think he was kind of in la-la land there for a good while. So I don't think the full responsibility of a lot of this was even, like, hitting him. But now it is, so it's kind of cool to see that he's actually, like, taking it now. Since then, Susan had all too often turned her head and saw a narrow-hipped figure gliding after her in the streets, or cloaked suspicious eyes of one of Cordelia's friends watching her. Twice before, she'd agreed to meet the boys, but had to break it off. The second, at the very last moment. That time, she saw Brian Hookie's eldest son watching her in an oddly intent way. It was mostly intuition, but a strong intuition. What made it worse is that she needed to see Roland, not for palaver alone, but just to see him and touch his face. The rest could wait, but she needed to reassure herself that he was real and not just a figment of her kind of, imagination of, like, the stresses that she's under. It was finally Maria who had helped by going to Cordelia and telling her that Susan needed to spend the night at Seafront. The note had been from Olive, and as much as Cordelia had wanted, she could not believe it a forgery, and it wasn't. Olive had wrote it when Susan had asked Maria to deliver it. Cord asked Maria what was wrong with her niece, and Maria said that she was tired and feeling sick. Cord didn't believe it this close to Faraday, and she said that Susan never got sick. Maria just repeated herself, and Cord had to accept it. Susan had then gone over the balcony at Seafront, down the 15 feet of tangled vines, and through the servant's door. There, Roland had been waiting after a few warm minutes, which we will not be which we need not concern ourselves with. King says they rode Rusher to the graveyard where Cuthbert and Alan waited, and that is the end of the subchapter. The many spies of Cordelia, including her man Susan, has had it rough recently.
Yeah,
and good for Susan for listening to her intuition.
absolutely. Now, just question: a little bit of the touch, maybe, or just normal intuition?
I mean, the question is there any difference?
That's true.
I mean, in Stephen King's universe, is there such thing as intuition, or is that all just the touch or the shine?
Or is it just that?
Didn't Danny say that at one
like
point?
You have intuition, and then you just have to learn how to listen to it. Kind of like the whole the Force with the Jedi is like, it's there, but you have to be able to learn how to listen.
Didn't Dan or someone say, or maybe Dick say that in either Doctor Sleep or The Shining, about like everyone has it to one extent or another. It's just a matter of how powerful it is. For
Dick says that in The Shining at the very beginning. I think when they're sitting in his car, I think that's where he tells him is like, yeah, everyone's got it a little bit.
Yeah. So also good on Olive to help. She has no reason to treat Susan like anything but yesterday's trash, but she isn't treating her that way. So good on her. She's a good person.
Yeah, I read your note about that, and I just had to write this. I wonder what would happen to Olive if she did treat Susan like yesterday's trash. Like, do you think that they would have gotten rid of her or send her off? I've heard about that before, like in our world where kings are doing something and their queens are very outspoken against it. They're just like, all right, go visit your relatives over in the other country. And it's just a way of getting them out of the way.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So I wonder I wonder if Olive is, Olive obviously is a good person from everything that we've seen so far.
Yeah.
So I don't think that is the case, but I wonder what would have happened to her if she hadn't have acted as cordially and nicely as she has.
Yeah, it's a good question for sure. I just think it's just not in her. I just don't see her necessarily having the nastiness, right?
Yeah.
So,
thank God that it was Olive, not Coral, that she was dealing with.
Yeah. Not a time, but with the sickness claim from Maria, Cordelia says this close to Faraday. Not the same specific ticking clock, but it is giving us a sense that we are very close now.
Oh yeah.
So, also, isn't it just funny that like that's her thought? It's like, okay, Susan hardly ever gets sick, but why is Cordelia drawing any comparison to this close to Faraday? It's her just worrying about.
I think it's one of those ones that if a kid was on his deathbed, he's still going to get up and go to Faraday, kind of thing.
Maybe.
No, she's not going to be sick around Faraday. She would never admit to being sick because if you're sick, you have to stay home and stay in bed, and you don't get to go to the fair.
And see me, I'm just reading that the other way of like it's so close to the payoff, quote unquote, for Cordelia.
Oh no, that's what Cordelia's thinking. But
Yeah.
I think that in her mind, she's justifying it as saying, "There's no way Susan's sick.
Yeah.
She's never sick. She can't be sick close to Faraday. She would never allow herself to be." But deep down, the real reason is, oh my God, nothing can happen to my payday.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. I think it's both. I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's a combo of the two.
Yeah, she is the worst. She really is terrible.
Absolutely, she is a selfish little bitch. So we're on to subchapter 3 now, right?
Yep.
Susan looked at the blonde one first, who wasn't Richard Stockworth, but Alan Johns, and the other whom she sensed such doubt of her, and perhaps even anger towards her, was Cuthbert Allgood. They sat side by side on a fallen gravestone. They stood up when she arrived, and Alan started a bow saying, "Long days," and Cuthbert finished the bow saying, "and pleasant nights." The two of them looked so much like a comic Faraday sketch she had to laugh. She curtsied to them deeply and said, "May you have twice the number, gentlemen." Then they simply just stood there looking at each other, not knowing how to proceed. Roland, of course, didn't help. He just sat on top of Rusher, watching them carefully. Susan took a tentative step forward, not laughing now, but her dimples still showed, and her eyes were anxious. She said, "I hope you don't hate me, and that you would understand I hope you don't hate me, but understand if you did. that she knows that she has come between their plans, but she couldn't help it. She raises her hands, palms up, to Alan and Cuthbert, and said, "I love him." Alan says they don't hate her, do we, Bert? For a terrible moment, Cuthbert was silent, looking over her shoulder, studying the demon moon. Susan felt her heart stop. Then his gaze returned to her, and he gave her such a sweet smile that a confused thought of, man, if I'd met this one first, shot through her mind like a comet. Cuthbert says, Roland's love is my love. He took her hands and pulled her between himself and Alan like a sister standing between her two brothers. For we have been friends since we wore cradle cloths, and we will continue to be friends until one of us leaves the path and enters the clearing. He grins like a kid and says, mayhap we'll find the end of the path together with the way things are going. Alan says, and soon. Susan says, as long as her aunt doesn't come along as chaperone. And that's the whole subchapter. It's just those three meeting for the, not meeting for the first time, but meeting for the first time. Because all fake names aside and everything like that. This is Alan Johns. This is Cuthbert Allgood. This is Susan Delgado and everything. Yeah. They also, my note here, thank God Cuthbert buries the hatchet. He really grew up a lot over the last few chapters.
Yeah, I don't think he ever held anything against her. I think it was Roland.
He says like, he does say it would be easier if I could hate her. Yeah. But I think it's one thing to say it when you're not face-to-face with the person. But when you get face-to-face with the person and that person begs your forgiveness, like Susan is here, there is that momentary moment where even the best of us have that moment of, should I say fuck you? Should I just tell them to go fuck themselves? And everything. But like Cuthbert does here, he's just like, nope. Roland's love is my love and everything. And he even like doesn't just say it. He also, again, actions speak louder than words, right? He even pulls her in between him and Alan and just like, look, you're one of us. Yeah. You're my love. You're Roland's love. You're my love. Yeah. Kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah, indeed. I love that she has the thought of if she had met Cuthbert first. I have to imagine he is quite the charmer. Yeah. Oh, with that tongue. Oh, that tongue would work wonders on women. Like, yeah. Oh, boy. I have to imagine sense of humor, right? That's often something mentioned with a lot of ladies when it comes to dudes. They want, a sense of humor. So absolutely. And how are you going to get a better sense of humor than Cuthbert? Or Eddie. I mean, yeah. Let's see. David says, if you want to be my lover, you got to get with my friends. I understood that reference. Yeah, that's a good 90s reference. That is a good 90s reference. I love that King is already planning the idea that the three of these, Alan, Cuthbert, and Susan are like brothers and sister together and everything. They might not. Well, two of them at least. What? I don't think Roland wants to be a brother. Well, no, I'm not talking about Roland. I'm talking about like he pulls Susan, and there's the three of them. Oh, three. So okay. the brother and sister, brothers with a sister, kind of thing. Okay, not Roland. Roland's up on the horse. God, you sick fuck. Oh, instantly going for the incest, Tad. What's wrong with you? Well, you said three, and then I think I just read it as three and sister, and I'm like, wait, what? No, the three of them are brothers with their sister. The banjo starting to play. I did not write it very eloquently. You're right. The banjo starting to play. Paddle faster. I hear banjos. Oh, good stuff. All right, so moving over to subchapter 4. Yeah. We are quartet. We are one from many, is how Roland starts out, and no one disagrees. They had gone to the mausoleum, and their breath smoked from their mouth and noses. Roland squatted on his hunkers, looking at each of his companions who had sat in a line on the meditation bench. Susan sat in the middle of the two boys, and they had unconsciously both put their arms around her. Roland thought of protective brothers. Alan said that they are greater than they were, and he could sense that very strongly. Bert agreed and said that it was a fine meeting place, especially for a quartet like theirs. So, there we go. Roland didn't smile. Humor had never been his strong suit. We know that all so well about Roland. Yeah. Roland said they should talk about what is going on in Hambry and then talk about the future. Alan told Susan that they had not come on a mission, but were sent to get them out of the way. And Roland had made enemies with the cohort of John Farson. Cuthbert cut a joke, and Roland told him to control himself. He didn't want to be there all night. Cuthbert cried his pardon. Cuthbert mentioned that he and Roland had a disagreement about acting or waiting, and Roland admitted that he had wanted to wait, but for the wrong reasons.
But they had settled their differences. Susan looked between the two of them with some alarm, and her gaze settling on the bruise on Roland's lower left jaw, which was very visible even in the darkness. And she asked how they settled them. Roland said it didn't matter. Because we actually don't see their first meeting. Again, King kind of skipped over it. So that's probably when she would have reacted to the fact that his face was bruised.
Yeah.
Right? So
After the fight with Cuthbert.
Yeah. So like we heard about her climbing out of seafront, and then it says they met, and there a few minutes of warmth that we're not going to cover. Here's what King said.
Yeah.
But in that moment is when she would have noticed, like, oh shit, what happened to your face type
Yeah.
thing, right? So we didn't necessarily get that, but here we're kind of getting it in a different way where she's kind of starting to piece it together.
Yeah.
Cool reuse of the quartet line that Roland told the modern quartet at the beginning of this book.
It's so cool that we use it in our opening.
Yes, indeed.
Absolutely.
Good stuff.
Another cool brother-sister moment with Bert, Alan, and Susan here. Like, you can really see, like, Alan says it, like, we're stronger now. And, like, she sits down in between them on the bench, and they instantly are like, here, let's put our arms around her, keep her warm. It's cold out.
Yeah.
And everything. That's good friends, kind of thing. So, like, absolutely, like, what's it, like, already she's one of them.
Yeah.
Is what it feels. King's very much giving us that impression.
Yeah. So the breath visible, another reminder how late in the year it is.
It's getting chilly.
Yeah, indeed. It's been summer most of this story. So.
Yeah. Roland is just so done with Bert's jokes at this point. like he's just so done with him. Like, oh my God.
Oh, and just
I don't wish to be here all night.
Just think, Roland had most of his life to think, thank God. Cuthbert's behind me. And then he opens a door.
Yep.
And gets another version.
Cuthbert 2.0.
Yeah. With 20% more New York.
And 30% more of, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Alan's touch is showing with him now sensing that they're much stronger together. Caesar would approve.
Ape together strong.
Susan piecing the fight together as much as she can. Kind of interesting because like once they mention a disagreement, then you see the bruise and suddenly it has new context. And
do you think a little thought went through her brain that she's like, wait, their fight was over acting or waiting? Extra doubt. I think it was more about me. She had that unsettledness with Cuthbert when she first looked at him and everything. So
yeah,
just like, he hates me. Like, this dude fucking hates me.
Yeah. Plus, I'm sure that Alan has those like watery puppy dog eyes.
Oh,
and I'm
absolutely.
Guessing Cuthbert probably doesn't necessarily towards her.
No.
So there's probably some reading between the lines happening there.
Exactly.
Because don't you just picture Alan just having like those innocent child eyes?
Oh yeah.
Like that just fits the way that he's been this entire story.
He's blonde
innocent.
as well. Blonde as well. So
round face.
Very Tom Cullen is what I think of.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's got a round face too. They always talk
with
about
like the touch and like like his intuition that Cullen has when he goes into that zone and everything.
Yeah.
So just kind of like round face, blonde hair. Yeah, it kind of fits, doesn't it, a little bit?
Yeah. So Roland went on that Farson intends a battle or a series of them in the Shaved Mountains, northwest of Gilead, to force the affiliation towards him and to appear as though he is trapped. Then lure them in, trap them, and destroy them with weapons of the old people that drives on oil from Citgo. Susan asked where it would be refined to be useful. Bert said that somewhere along the route, likely the Vicastus in the mining country. Susan said that she had heard of it, but she had never been out of Hambury in her life, but that it is likely to change soon. Alan said that there's a good deal of machinery there from the old people in the mountains, hidden in the drawers and canyons, robots, killer lights, razor beams, which are called so because they will cut you in half if you run into them. He admits that some of it might be legend, but there were some where there was smoke, there was fire. Bert said that it would then go to Farson, but then they had enough here in Mages to worry about. Roland said he had been waiting until he got every bit of it, every bit of their plunder. Roland looked toward Eyebolt Canyon, which was quite quiet tonight because the wind was carrying the other direction away from town. He then said if they could burn the oil, the rest would go up with it, as the oil was the most important thing, and he wanted to destroy it and get the hell out of here, all four of them. So Susan is smart to ask about refinement. She knows full well from living there that the oil is mostly useless.
Yeah,
I want to say there were some lamps that they used.
She talked about it back when they went to Citgo, is that, yeah, we can use it for a little little
Yeah.
things here and there, but
Very little. Yeah.
not much. Like they know enough to be able to get it to use so they can make ice. Because that was one of the things, like, Cuthbert noticed that, like, when they were at the sheriff's office, he clinked his glass, there's ice in it. Like,
Yeah.
oh, so.
Yeah. They have an ice machine, and I want to say there's, like, lanterns they can
Yes.
use, but, like, overall, it's mostly useless to them. So.
Yeah.
I also love razor beams. That is brilliantly named. Honestly, why don't we? I mean, I guess we use laser in our world. Laser beams don't actually damage anything.
Yeah.
But if we ever get to the point where we have like slicing lasers,
If we get full on Resident Evil lasers they
or
need to be
lightsabers,
they need to be called razor beams.
yes, indeed. But lasers and robots, again, this world never ceases to amaze me. Things that are futuristic to us are ancient to them.
Yeah,
That's
the
wild.
the stuff of the old people. Like, wait, isn't that futuristic? Like,
Yeah. But then you're looking like you're living in like the mid 19th century, frontier America type thing. It's kind of the vibe you're getting with most of it. So it's like, yeah, this whole world is very strange. The first time I read this book or these books, I remember trying to like place like, is this a post-apocalyptic world? And in fact, I think I believed that for a little bit. But then over time, you start to notice small things. Even in these book clubs, there's been things where you come across where it's like, oh no, wait, that is 100% showing like this can't be our planet.
Yeah,
a million years in the future or anything. So
yeah, it's interesting because it's very reminiscent of the game that I'm playing right now. Fallout 4 has that where it's like you're walking through a place where people wear like scrap pieces of metal for armor.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's robots that run on nuclear power floating around.
Yeah.
So it's just like, wait.
Yeah.
You get like kind of like the wastelandish like Mad Max feel, but at the same time, there's all this technology that's still present.
Yeah.
So kind of like what you're talking about there, very reminiscent of Fallout series.
Yeah. Also earlier with Jonas and Latigo, it was said that Farson kept his best people with him in the mountains. Well, the talk is that that's where all these toys are at. That's troubling.
Yeah.
We're piecing together a couple things from this section where it's like, he said, oh no, in Jonas's mind, he's like, oh, he keeps all of his best people with him up in the mountains.
Yeah.
And then here's a land saying that, yeah, the rumors are there's a bunch of like toys up in the mountains hidden in nooks and crannies. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we got that earlier too, because it's like Farson has these tanks. They knew about this. Farson has these tanks. They have to be somewhere, right? Well, it makes sense that he has them with him.
But robots and lasers on top of tanks, like, sounds like the rumors
I don't think
are.
that was with Farson. I think that's where they're going to take it, most likely to be
refined.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting to me that up the Vicassus Mountains is mining area, and there's potentially all these toys up there.
Yeah.
And then we also know that Farson is hidden in some mountain somewhere. Like, maybe it is the same mountain.
It could be.
If I were Farson, I'd be setting myself up around a lot of toys like that.
I mean, it's just as long as those toys aren't going to hurt your men.
Have we seen robots in this store, except for Blaine? He kind of counts as a robot, but not really. But we haven't. I know we've seen like demons. We've had Roland talk about like machines possessed by demons, but we haven't really seen robots. So that's kind of an interesting addition to this world, right?
I don't think we have.
Unless Blaine counts.
Yes, we have. Shardic's robots.
Oh, right. And even Shardik is cybernetic organisms.
But
so.
his robots, his
that's true.
They were made to look like animals, but they were actually full-blown robots.
You're right.
I was seriously like going backwards through where we were because I don't want to spoil anything that's ahead. So I'm like, okay, book 4, we have Blaine, we have Lud. Was there robots in Lud? No, there's no robots in Lud.
No, and Shardik counts too.
Yeah.
I mean, just because it has flesh on it doesn't turn it into being not a robot.
Yeah, it makes it a cyborg.
Yes, indeed. What do you got note-wise here?
So this is their only shot to stop Farson from getting his oil. Like, because basically they're going to go from here
to refinement
on
the way to
Farson.
They don't even have to like go way out of their way.
Yeah, it's not like they have to go like, oh, we got to go all the way up north to the refining
and then
country,
come back down.
And then come back down. No, they're going straight there, and that straight line has the refining stop on the way. They don't get another shot.
Yeah. Yeah, so and no time for like reinforcements.
Exactly. Well, we knew that a long time ago when Roland's like, we can't send a pigeon for help. It's not going to get back in time.
Yeah. Finally, some indications of what the plan is. Hopefully, it's not too late at this point. as well.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
like, Roland's finally starting, and that's what we got in the last episode, where Roland is like, why have I been keeping my plan
why-
secret? So,
Why
now,
can't I tell him?
now he's actually revealing it, which is kind of cool, but I just hope it's not too late, because, again, the clock is ticking. I don't think in this entire episode we necessarily get a full-on indication of how close we are, but we see the cold air. Cordelia mentioned it's close to Faraday. I can say that I would guess that we're probably within a couple weeks, maybe 2 weeks.
A week or two at tops. Yeah.
A fortnight at most.
I mean, even like Shimi going up to Rhea, Coral convincing him to go up there is like, hey, you're going to get some money, and Reap's just around the corner.
Yeah.
I don't know if she actually says like a time frame, because
We were given time, but I think it was either last episode or the episode before. So it's been a minute, and some time has passed. So
it's only been 2 days since they went up to Rhea's.
No, I know, but
But what I'm saying is, like, it's only been 2 days since they went to Rhea's, and the day before that is when Cuthbert met Shimi. So when Shimi went up to Rhea, so if Coral gave Shimi a day and tell how long, we would be able to trace it.
I don't
to
think
this.
she did though. I think she more just said it's
close.
It's very close.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. My last note here. I get worried with Roland saying he wants to get all of their loot. Is he putting them in more danger so he gets all of it instead of just most of it or part of it?
Yeah.
Because that's the thing is, like, I understand wanting to get all of it because then they can't run any of the machines. But how much danger are you putting yourself in by staying to get all of it?
So is that how you read that? Because I read that more as like wanting to get all of their loot, meaning he wanted to know their entire plan. And one of the biggest reasons he's delayed is because he wanted to make sure he knew every aspect of what they were doing.
No, he was talking about their loot. I want to get all of their loot. I want to
Yeah,
destroy it all.
Yeah, but I think that's part of it where it's like not jumping too soon, because it's like if it's just a matter of jump at the oil, well, what if you don't know the full? Part of me is wanted to. I mean, we know that Roland's not perfect, and some of the waiting wasn't about actually real things, but part of it that was about waiting. I think he truly wanted to know and map out every aspect of it so that he knew his
Right.
plan would fully encompass, or at least he could account for everything. Even if he can't destroy everything, he can know everything that is going on.
See, and that's where I'm worried that it's not necessarily that it's more he's pushing the waiting and he was doing it for the wrong reasons. But the way that he says loot, and I want to get all of the loot, makes me think that he wants to destroy everything that they came for and all the men and everything like that. And what I worry about is that if he waits too long, that the circle is going to close too much and there is no way out.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, is that I'm just a little bit worried for the quartet here, because Roland's like, well, I want to get it all. And it's like 80% would still be good enough to cripple them and not be able to, instantly destroy the affiliation, and we would have a better chance of getting out alive.
Yeah.
It's that pro and con there. Like, if we wait till we have 100% of all the information and we have a chance to destroy all of the loot, we have a 2% chance of making it out alive.
Yeah.
But if we go at 80%, we have a 60% chance of making it out alive. That's a big difference. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Indeed. It's like the never let perfect get in the way of good enough.
Yeah.
So, Susan said they meant to move on reaping day, didn't they? Bert confirmed it seemed so and laughed, holding his stomach like a laughing child. Susan was confused by the laughter and asked what was funny. Bert said he couldn't tell, it was too rich for him and he'd laugh all the way through it. And Roland will be annoyed. So at least
no sense of humor.
At least he has some self-awareness there. He then told Al to tell Susan about their visit from Deputy Dave. Alan said that he came to the Barquet and had talked to them like an uncle, telling them that Hambry folk don't care for outsiders on their fair at their fairs, and that they shouldn't, and they should just stay here all day, on the day of the full moon. Susan is indignant, saying that is insane, and they welcome strangers and they are not savages. I also love the way that Frank performed that.
Oh,
too.
it's so good.
Her indignity toward
Yeah.
the whole thing is hilarious. Cuthbert calmed her down, saying he knew that, and Dave didn't know that they knew. He said that Avery knew more. Roland took over, saying with pains that they went to warn them off. Warning them off meant two things. First, they intended to move on reaping day, fair day, and second, that they could steal all of Farson's goods right out from under their. They thought that they could steal Farson's goods right out from under their noses. So, that's kind of what Roland's takeaways were. So we all know now, though, because we've seen the other side of the conversation, that it's the day before fair day that everything's going to happen. So Alan chimed in to say they would probably blame them as well. So at least they're.
He got that part right.
Yeah, they're catching some of the important points here. She asked what they have planned then. Roland said to destroy what they left at Sitgo as bait for bait of their own, and to strike them where they gather. That's Hanging Rock. At least half the tankers they meant to take were there already. He then said that, which that is interesting because that means they're watching it, because we know from the conversation from your first subchapter where they said they were moving a few per night type thing. So for
4 per night in pairs.
Yeah, so Roland is like, okay, well, half of what they have is already a Hanging Rock. So we're basically seeing the other side of it, where we kind of know what's happening from your section, and now we're seeing how our boys are seeing and how they're interpreting it all. It's kind of interesting to see, because we're seeing it all as readers, and so sometimes it can be frustrating, because like when they miss something, you're like, no, you're missing something here. No, I know it. There's no way for you to know it, but I do, and it's frustrating me because you should know, because I know. He then said that they will have a force of men there, maybe as many as 200, which again we know it's going to be 100. But he does think it'll be less. He then said that he intends for all the men to die. Alan said if those men didn't, then they themselves probably would be the ones to die. Susan asked how the 4 of them can kill 200 soldiers. Roland said that they can't, but if they could start a few of the tankers, there might be a mighty explosion, and the surviving soldiers would be terrified, and the leaders would be infuriated. He then said at that point they'd make themselves seen. Alan and Bert were hanging on his every word, because this is because they had figured much of the plan, but this part is what Roland had been keeping to himself. Susan asked what then, and Roland says that he thinks that they can lead them into Eyebolt Canyon and into the Thinny. So that is the end of the subchapter. So Susan is smart, figuring out that Reaping Day is their D-Day. She's piecing stuff together. She's very sharp.
She's not just some dumb girl that a lot of people write their females that way. She knows exactly what's up.
Yeah.
My note. It's one of those infuriating times where King tells us when something is going to happen, and we see the characters fall for the trap, because we saw in the first chapter. You already alluded to this. The first subchapter today, they're actually going to move on the boys the day before Reaping Day.
Yeah.
So it's like, shit, they think it's all happening on Reaping Day.
Yeah.
But they're going to come for them the day before.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh no.
Because there is that relaxation if you actually know the opponent's plan.
Yeah.
And it's like, so you kind of know you have a day to breathe. So then if the enemy can bamboozle you and then hit you on that day, you're that much more unprepared, because you think you still have a day to breathe, right?
Yeah, it's like there's been times throughout history where it's like, well, they won't hit us today. It's a holiday. Washington crossing the Delaware in the American Revolution, catching the Germans, mercenaries, that's it's Christmas. Of course he's not going to come fight us.
Yeah.
And he went and fought them,
Yeah. I love how indignant Susan gets at the claim that they don't like outsiders at their fairs. Whenever people are told lies about something, about their family or their town or even their country, they always take it so personal.
Oh, yeah.
And I just love it. It's great. Bert sliding that remark about Avery knowing more. He just drops it and then moves on, but he shows that they probably figured more out than, more that we already know. So that's good.
Yeah. And I like how they just skipped Deputy Dave. They just went right to Avery. They're just like, Deputy Dave doesn't know shit.
Yeah. Alan figured that they would get blamed for the stuff because for the stuff being moved to Farson, very trig.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep.
Yeah.
That's part of that we absolutely heard them talk about. It's like, it's going to be them.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed.
And then King showed us that it isn't the plan that they have for them either. They're so close to the truth, but they're just a bit off. And that is the big difference there, is that they think that it's just going to be they're going to get framed for stealing this stuff for Farson and everything like that.
But not murders.
Assassinations. But not the assassination. Like you said, assassination is different than murder.
It's very different,
Yeah.
Very different. David said in the chat, that's actually a pretty solid trick the bad guys play on Roland and his pals. Yeah, very, very, very good stuff. And again, it's the kind of thing you'd expect from kind of a Jonas type, right? A very trig, a dude that if he isn't smart, dies, right? Like that's the problem with guys like this is like, like Roland noticed it when he looked through the door into the airplane. It's like we're such a soft world because we don't have to be hard on our planet. But in Roland's world you do, and how much more so if you're this outcast
from the normal society.
Yeah. So like Jonas has to be smarter than anyone other, because if he's not, then he's dead.
Yeah.
I love that Susan says, how are we 4 going to kill 200 soldiers? In for a penny, in for a pound. She's such a badass.
Oh yeah. She's like, yeah. And honestly, that's one thing with your note here. I didn't put my. I had a note with it, but it kind of just goes hand in hand with yours. Is that she's all in with Roland? Like if we had any if Cuthbert and Elaine had any doubts about her love for Roland, this right here, this line should show that nope, I'm 100% in. How the four of us, how are the three of you? How are the four of us going to kill those men?
Yeah, exactly. Because again, like you mentioned earlier, I think a lesser writer that would have just made like a damsel in distress type female character would have just written that in a way where it's like, how are you guys going to handle that?
How are you big strong men going to kill all those bad guys?
Yeah, which would be a stretch, calling 3 14-year-old boys men. But
yeah. Yeah.
Especially for a 16-year-old girl.
Oh,
Think about how like high school age kids think of younger kids to them.
That's like
right?
That's like borderline elementary school, junior high right there. 13, 14,
To like a high schooler.
To a high schooler who's like driving and stuff like that's a child.
Yeah, exactly.
You're the same thing. No, I'm not. Oh,
Yeah.
they get so mad when you do that.
Oh yeah.
You're a kid too. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
So my note, Roland says as many as 200 soldiers, but we hear from Latigo it's only 100 that he brought, plus whatever Magus puts together. So I know it's not going to be exactly 100 because we have guards out at Sitco and Hanging Rock that are Horsemen's Association.
Yeah.
So it's not just 100, but so I think you kind of already hinted towards it earlier. Do you think it's closer to 100 or closer to 200
I think
Roland says?
100.
That's
Roland
Yeah.
also says probably 200, but probably less. But I think Roland's just trying to overestimate, so you could plan for more. And like, if you end up getting less, it's how much better, right?
It's the plan's just going to be easier then, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, but I think that like probably what they get from Hambry is probably, I would guess 25 people or less. So if Latigo's got 100, you're talking 125 people would be my guess. No more than that, because I don't think in a small town like Magus, I don't think you can get away with more than 25 people being out at night guarding shit without being noticed, right? If you're in a small town
also,
like that, it's hard to hide. But if you got 25 people and they're not all gone at once, it's probably easy.
You take one or two from this ranch, you take 2 or 3 from this ranch, 1 or 2 from this ranch.
Yeah.
To get your 25, then you're good.
Exactly.
But also at the same time, it's not the full Horsemen's Association, not all of the traders that are going to be there. This is just guard duty until Latigo's men shows up. It's not like they're being called up to arms to fight a battle.
Yeah.
They're still trying to stay hidden a little bit. They don't want to advertise to the town, "Hey, we're committing treason."
Yeah.
Because if they're trying to, like Roland and them think, if they're trying to blame them for stealing this stuff and giving it to Farson, well, you don't want. Hey, isn't that so and so from the Rocking Bee out there?
Yeah.
Wait a minute, I thought it was Will Dearborn and his mates. Well, what's he doing? Is he part of it? All of a sudden questions start getting asked when you see those guys out there. So
yeah,
it's just an interesting question on how many men are we actually looking at here?
Yeah.
For Roland and them. Because we've heard a couple different numbers now.
Yeah, indeed. And then the thinny finally coming into play. It seems it's been alluded to all book. I mean, the thinny is what sparked this story to be told to the modern quartet to begin with, and now it seems like the thinny is maybe the Chekhov's gun.
Yeah,
here, so that's pretty fun.
Yeah. So last subchapter for the day, subchapter 5, Thunderstruck Silence greeted this. Remember, Roland just said that he's going to lead them into the remaining troops into the thinny.
Also, big explosion. Let's not overlook that. I guess
big explosion. Survivors.
The ones that survive will either be infuriated or disoriented. I gotta.
Well, the soldiers will be disoriented. The leaders will be infuriated. Is what Roland says.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So
I failed to actually put something in my notes to let's put a finger on that fact that they're going to basically blow the entire fucking thing sky high. That's
not just the tankers, but Sitco.
Yeah,
like all of it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So Thunderstruck Silence greeted this. Then Susan said, "You're mad, not without respect." No, Cuthbert said thoughtfully, he isn't. You're thinking of the little cut in the canyon wall, aren't you, Roland? The one just before the jog in the canyon floor. Roland nodded. 4 could scramble up that way without too much trouble, then at the top start a landslide using a fair amount of rock that we pile up there. I gotta stop because Roland says, I just caught that. I didn't really even realize that doing my notes earlier. Roland says 4 could scramble up that way. So he's talking about Susan being with them right here and now, into the canyon and everything.
Here and now?
Yeah.
What is that, Wolf, right?
Wolf.
From Talisman?
Yeah. Wolf. That is horrible, Susan says. Alan replies that it is survivable, and if they allowed the oil and it got to Farson, they would put it to use. They would slaughter every affiliation man that gets in range of their weapons, because the good man doesn't take prisoners. Susan says, I didn't say wrong, just horrible. Damn, I had to stop right there. Damn, I love that line by Susan. She recognizes the gravity of the situation, and that is something I would never hear come out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Because you would not say it's horrible. You're like, it's glorious.
Yeah, well, it is. It is. Nothing like a large gaseous meat grinder. And we know it'll work, too. Alan almost went headlong into that thing. It's very hypnotizing.
Cuthbert was a step behind him, and it's like, yeah, he got both of them, and they're gunslingers.
Well,
so.
Alan got a lot worse, probably because of the touch. So.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So last section here for Subchapter 5. There was a silent moment as the 4 children contemplated the murders of 200 men. Except most wouldn't be men. Most would be boys roughly their own ages. At last, Susan says that the ones not caught in the rock slide would just ride back out of the canyon again. Alan says no, they won't. He had seen the lay of the land and now understood the matter almost completely. Roland was nodding, and there was a trace of a smile on his mouth. Why not? Susan asks. Alan says the brush at the front of the canyon. You're going to set it on fire, aren't we, Roland? And if the wind is prevailing that day, the smoke, it'll drive them the rest of the way in, Roland finished. Into the thinny. Susan asks how they will set the brush pile alight. Roland says that is how she can help them. That she can actually help with setting the tankers alight, too. And then Roland goes on and says that crude oil is a lot less volatile than people think it is, and they can't set it off with just their guns. He finishes off by saying, Shimi is going to help you, I hope. Susan says, tell me what you want.
Also, didn't take a note of this, but even in our world, movies have made people think, like, gasoline won't explode from a bullet either.
No.
Like, you can't shoot a gas tank and blow a car up. Like, that's...
I've seen people put that to the test, and it takes a lot to make a car explode.
Yeah, it's basically like the only way you're going to get it is if you basically pierce the gas tank and then one of the shots happens to spark. And even then, it's like maybe. Like, yeah, I want to say Mythbusters did that at one point.
Yes,
didn't
they did.
So
that's
it's just
the
like,
one I was thinking of, is that how they ended up getting it to actually go is they actually not only punctured the gas line, but they punctured like the battery, which then that sparked, and that's what set off the car.
Yeah.
But the odds of doing that, like, you can't have a car flip. There's a movie, I don't remember which one it is. He flips the car so that the underside is facing him, and then he shoots the gas tank, and it just Michael Bay's explosion. You know, it's like that's not going to happen.
Yeah, pretty much. So
I've seen cars go off of cliffs. They don't explode.
Yeah,
they don't just randomly explode.
Yeah, I mean Hans Moleman's cars do.
Hans Moleman is different. Hans Moleman's cars don't follow the laws of science.
Yeah, but so just saying all that to say that even refined in our world, like gasoline, which is a lot more flammable, not to say the oil's not flammable, but it's not as like, I guess not flammable is not the right word, explosive.
Yeah.
So how much less explosive is oil? You know, we've seen it in the history in the last 50 or so years. There's been times where you've seen in like wars where like oil fields get set on fire. It doesn't cause an explosion. That just means you just burn all the oil up, right? It doesn't explode though. So, it's just as you're reading that kind of came to mind where it's like unrefined. You know, Roland says it's not as volatile as people think. Volatile's the right word, not flammable, but volatile.
Yeah,
that'll explode, and it's just like So not only is oil not volatile, but in our world we know that gasoline's not as volatile as 80s action movies would have had us think.
Yes, but also just to clarify one thing that Tad said is that while setting oil on fire is one thing, causing an explosion with oil can be a big boom then.
Yes.
It's just a matter of it's a matter of how you do it.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is Roland's plan here, is that it's not going to be lighted on fire. I think it's going to be explosions.
Yeah.
So
hey, that's a good Faraday firework.
Yeah, exactly. It's awesome how Alan and Cuthbert catch up on the full plan. Shows how much they understand Roland and just how he thinks, that they were trained together and everything like that. Because Roland doesn't give hardly anything.
No.
All he says, hey, we're going to drive him into the thinny, and then the rest, he says that last subchapter. Then the rest of this subchapter is Alan and Cuthbert filling in like, no, we're going to do A, B, and C. And she's like, wait, what? And she's like shocked, turning to them, but Roland's sitting over there he's got the Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
A big old smile on his face while nodding.
Or Jack Nicholson's son.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So especially because they've seen everything he's seen, right?
Yeah.
Like the lay of the land, all the stuff that Roland's seen to put this plan together. They've seen it all too. They were always there.
And if
so
and
it's
if
like,
Roland was the only one who went deep into Sitco, he still told them about it too.
yeah,
So
yeah. So it also just shows how good their training is and how well they know each other. Like,
Yeah.
all of that is revealed in that. But yeah, that's the thing. It's easy to remember that like Roland's seen a lot of stuff, but they've usually been there right next to him. So it's like even if they're not clocking in the same way, they would have clocked it enough to like when this is all happening and you're having your Sizer Koze moment from freaking Usual Suspects, like they've got the pieces to see like, oh, I know where Roland's going with this. I saw that piece in the cliff. I saw the dry brush in front of like they've seen it, all the pieces they need. So
they all marked it too, because it was so hard for me too when we were doing the Eyebolt Canyon section.
Yeah,
It's like, there's part of Roland's plan.
Yeah.
There's part of Roland's plan. There's part of Roland's plan. But the funny thing is that it was Alan pointing stuff out or Cuthbert pointing stuff out. Like, man, this is narrow. Hey, look at that little jut down there. And it's like, God damn it, Cuthbert, you're the one that noticed. It's like, you have no idea how important that's going to be in like 300 pages. You know?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
My second to last note here. Also, Susan being so willing to help is just awesome. I feel like they're finally coming together as a Cot's hat.
Yeah, and then my note, kind of a follow-up to that, yeah, all the tension and friction that we've had this whole story is now gone. Now it's the only danger and friction is the enemy. Because we've always had two things going on where it's like the internal strife and then there's the external threat. Now the internal strife is pretty well, smoothed out.
Yeah.
Now the only thing we got to worry about is the external threats.
And it's a hell of a plan too. That's my last note here. It's a hell of a plan too that Roland has, but at the end of the day, I got to marvel at King's brilliance here, because the very first subchapter here, he ups the ante and then relieves us of the stress of like what you're talking about of the internal strife.
Yeah.
These last few subchapters have done 2, 3, 4, and 5 were subchapters were all dedicated to resolving that internal strife.
Yeah, which has dominated for what?
The whole story almost.
I mean, yeah, early on it wasn't there, but because I remember when they found the first hair of Susan's on him.
Yeah.
Like even then it was just kind of like smiling at each other, but it wasn't like a strife thing.
Yeah.
So, but it's been a number of episodes now that we've been dealing with like this internal strife with these characters.
Exactly.
So it's finally resolved now, but
At the
we're
same
very
time,
close to the end, to the enemy on the outside.
And we also
come.
found out that their plan is to take them the day before that they think.
Yeah.
Because they think it's going to happen on Reap Day and that they're going to have the upper hand. But really, they don't realize that they're coming the day before. So it's like, I'm so happy for you, but God damn it, turn around, kind of thing.
And the frame job. We've learned a lot.
There's a whole lot.
Yeah, we've learned a lot here. So it's like, in some ways, in the fact that Flag left, like there's some things going right for our boys.
Yeah.
But there's also some stuff where it's like, there's still some problems here.
You guys are still bone. You know that, right?
You guys are.
Hooray! You put out the fire in the cockpit. Yeah, the plane's still not flying.
Yeah,
you're crashing.
You're still missing a wing.
Yeah, and they don't realize it. That's the big thing, is they don't realize that their wing is gone.
Yeah, or like Indiana Jones when he wakes up and the pilot's gone from the plane. Like it's that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's like, the pilot's gone. Yeah, you also have no wings. So it's like, oh, shit. Resolve one problem.
Well, luckily you could jump out of a plane with a inflatable boat and you'll survive.
Absolutely. So. It's 100% accurate.
Did Mythbusters ever try that one?
That would be interesting to see someone try.
Oh, but that is it for this episode. We don't really have any spoiler discussions.
Yep.
But yeah, so the next episode, which is in I don't even know what day, it's April.
So next episode is going to be
26th.
Next episode is a roundtable. Back to roundtables at the beginning of the month, book clubs at the end, right?
Yes. So 26th. David said, did Frank win any sort of awards for narrating books? Because he should have. And like, I don't know. I feel like nowadays as like the audiobooks have become way more popular. I wonder if there even is anything, but I would honestly wonder if there has become awards for like narrations. I would wonder if that was after Frank's debilitation.
Frank Muller, according to Wikipedia, Frank Muller won the 2002 and 2003 Audio Award for Best Male Narrator for his readings of Clive Barker's Cold Heart Canyon and Elmore Leonard's Shomingo Blues, respectively.
Oh, okay. So they've had, but even still, like, you know, when he was narrating these back in like the mid '90s or late '90s, I just don't know if those awards existed yet or not. But either way, we definitely agree. Frank deserves all praise because
So good.
incredible stuff. But yeah, next episode on the 26th of April, we'll be back for more of this. We're going to finish this chapter out. But then obviously a fortnight from now we'll be back for a roundtable with some fun discussions. But let's go ahead and hit the outro stuff. If you want to subscribe to us, you can do it on any podcasting service of your choice. You can stream us on Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, all kinds of fun places like that. You can join us for the live streams here at youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. If you want to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications, we'd appreciate that. And if you want to find the show notes, you can find that at darktowerpalaver.com. There's no show notes for this episode, but you can go vote for your March Insanity votes. Get your votes for the finals in before Monday. Monday is when the polls close at the end of the day Monday as we move into April 1st. We are down to our
go
final.
check out those finals.
Yeah, the finals. There's some shockers there. We'll fully recap it in a fortnight from now on April. We'll kind of get some of your feedback. I've obviously done the videos.
Yep.
But it'll be fun to talk through some of the stuff with you, including the biggest upset we've ever had in March Insanity.
Can't believe it.
And I don't know how it'll ever get taught, but who knows. And then if you want to support the show, you can do that at patreon.com/darktowerpalaver. Then if you want to contact the show, we're still looking for those Ermot haikus.
Nope.
Go ahead and Peter can tell you how to send those haikus in.
Don't send anything about that filthy snake. But you can email us about anything else, including how awesome it was. Oh, wait, and still no spoilers, right?
What?
Still no spoilers?
Yeah, no, we're not. No spoilers.
Damn it. Email us, show@darktowerpalaver.com. Follow us on Instagram or Threads. It's Dark Tower Palaver, all one word, no spaces. Our Blue Sky is darktowerpalaver.bsky.social. Our Twitter is @darktowerpod. That's @darktowerpod. And then our Facebook.com/darktowerpalaver is where you can find us there. And then get some merchandise, tpublic.com/user/darktowerpalaver. Pick up your #TitusTerrible merch.
Or your regular logo if you want.
That is the regular logo.
For haikus, that's syllables, right? How many syllables are in moist snake?
Moist snake. Moist snake. 3.
Okay. Just wondering for the sake of haikus. But yeah, we'll sign off as we always do. Again, join us in a fortnight for our next roundtable, and then at the second episode for April, we'll be back for some more Wizard and Glass here. Definitely loving it. We're getting down to the nitty gritty. Also, that reminds me. Before we sign off, I did update our percentages. We are now at 65% of the way through the whole book and 71% through Roland's story. So
Nice.
that is where we're at percentage wise. But yeah, we'll see you guys in a fortnight. Until then, we'll sign off as we always do by saying long days and pleasant nights.
Long days and pleasant nights, folks.
Oi.
All right, everyone in the chat, thank you all for joining. Thanks for being part of the conversation. You guys are awesome. And yeah, we'll be back for some fun conversating here in April for some All the King. Now with 2 book clubs in a row, it always feels weird. It's like, man, we haven't done a roundtable in forever.
Yeah.
But we'll be catching up on that in a fortnight. So until then, we'll see you guys on the flippity flip.
Bye, everyone.